Jenson Button comes through to claim an absolutely momentous second place here this afternoon. A tremendous drive from Jenson Button.
The race of his life is followed by the announcement that Jenson Button believes he must move on if he's going to climb to the F1 pinnacle.
Next year, I want to be challenging for the World Championship. That is my aim, and I think Williams is the team. Williams is the team I'm going to do it with, and Williams is the team that gives me that possibility.
As for the reigning champion Michael Schumacher, he's on pole, eyeing a record 12th win of the season. Ferrari should clinch another constructors' title. It is race day just outside of Budapest. Welcome to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hello there, good afternoon. So, Jenson Button wants to leave BAR next season. Williams are very keen to welcome him back. BAR here are doing their utmost to cling on to their man. 3 Swiss lawyers will decide who's got a valid contract. That decision expected within 3 weeks. That is the nitty-gritty, but the story is developing all the time. Louise Goodman reports.
Jenson Button's charge to second place in Hockenheim was the latest chapter in the British success story of the season. Jenson described it as the race of his life. Together, Button and BAR have reached new heights. But unbeknownst to the outside world, tensions were simmering behind the smiles. Jenson has always maintained good relations with the team that brought him into Formula One 4 years ago, and Frank Williams had made no secret of the fact that his former protégé was on the team's shopping list for 2005. So when Jenson's manager, John Byfield, informed Williams that BAR's option on their driver was invalid, Frank wasted no time signing Button back to the fold. Whilst Jenson relaxed in the Sardinian sunshine, Byfield sent a fax to David Richards informing him of the decision. Not surprisingly, Richards was less than impressed, believing that BAR had a valid contract for 2005. And so began the war of words, with both sides insisting that Jenson would be driving their car in Melbourne next year. By the time the teams arrived in Hungary, the matter was in the hands of the Contract Recognition Board. The independent Swiss arbitrator is expected to reach a decision after the Belgian Grand Prix.
So we know Jenson's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it based on current performance. He's doing it because he looks good in a blue shirt. He's moving to Williams because he thinks they can be world champion before BAR. But is he doing the right thing?
I'm amazed, actually. I don't get the understanding, maybe there's something within the team he doesn't like or something, but I'm really surprised, to be honest.
Has he done the right thing? I don't know. BAR are performing pretty well. And also he's going to be up against a teammate that I predict will be a world champion post the Schumacher era, and that's Mark Webber, so we'll see.
It's a question of, I guess, did he have the confidence that they could sustain the level of performance that they've got now, particularly with change coming, because when change comes you need resources to handle it, to do the R&D, and that's when an established team is perhaps not a bad bet.
I think any driver looking at his future is going to look at a team like Williams and think there's a team that even if it's going through a weaker part of its history, will come back. They always have done and always will do. So I can understand why Jenson's made that decision.
Undoubtedly, strong regulation changes favour the teams with the best resource, but that includes the people, not just money and not just equipment, but the intelligence and quality of the people. And I can't say whether Williams have better people than BAR. Certainly BAR have done a very good job this year.
Jenson says, for his part, that he's joining Williams because he wants to win the World Championship next year. How much do you think Williams have to do to achieve that?
I think they need to come a long way. They proved last year that it can be done. But you look at this year, it says, maybe this year is going to help them to do so, because they got it completely wrong.
So Frank Williams was the man who gave Jenson his opening in Formula One 4 years ago. He's very keen to get his man back, but realises the deal's not done yet.
The Button affair is not concluded. We have strong hope and ambition for him, but it won't necessarily be our decision in the end. On the assumption we are successful, and we will make it happen if we possibly can. But Jenson's arrival was not part of our plan. It was an astonishment to us that he became available.
How did that come about?
I'm not going into detail. Spent the last 7 days involved in explaining as little as I could without getting into detail, what has happened. It's not appropriate for Williams to take a sanctimonious position all of this. I'd rather stay out of any further comment.
Because you've kept the lines of communication open to him ever since he joined you way back when he was just a kid. I mean, you've kept in touch, haven't you?
Yes, we've kept a subsidiary option in place since 2002, when our first option expired, when Jensen left Renault.
And ever since, it's always been your wish that he'll come back?
In the long term, yes.
Right, now let's reflect to qualifying. Took place in unusually cool conditions by Hungarian standards anyway. First of all, we're going to check the performances of some of those drivers on the move.
Toyota have dumped Cristiano Di Matta in favour of this man, Ricardo Zonta. The Brazilian's done a creditable job so far, as he'd never before driven the revised Toyota. He finished just 0.07 of a second behind teammate Panis.
It's a very hard decision to make to replace a driver, and I think, can be seen as very unfair on Cristiano. He's a guy that the team likes, everyone likes him. It's a difficult decision to make, but, there's positives for us. And, we have to see how it pans out at the end of the season.
Mark Webber's hauled his Jaguar up to 11th on the grid, ahead of Coulthard's McLaren. It's the kind of performance that's earned him a drive at Williams BMW for the next 4 years.
I'm very excited about it. I'm not wasting 1 second of energy on what else is going on around the team at the moment. It's good that I'm there and I'm focused on doing a good job from next year. So obviously it's a big milestone. Well, for me in my career, it's the best and biggest decision hopefully I've made, and looking forward to it.
Meantime, Williams will stick with Antonio Pizzonia for the next 2 races as they wait for Ralf Schumacher to return to full fitness. Pizzonia impressed his bosses by out-qualifying teammate Montoya.
I have to say, congratulations, he did a good job. Second time in the race now, and his qualifying lap was really good.
Another good lap came from Giancarlo Fisichella, outpacing Jarno Trulli, whose seat he takes at Renault next year. Fissi thinks 2005 will give him a great chance of success.
I have a very good opportunity for the future. Maybe it's the first time in my life to have a good car, a car to win.
But there won't be much winning round Felipe Massa's pit. He missed qualifying after Sauber's second engine failure in 3 races. And finally, congratulations go to Mr. and Mrs. Kimi Räikkönen, who were married in Finland last week.
Ex-Miss Scandinavia, Jenny Räikkönen, she is here supporting her man. Louise Griffith here for Jenson Button, Tony. Despite all the distractions, the BARs clean out the second row.
Well, there's more turbulence, I think, in David Richards' office than there is coming out from behind the BAR Honda. But Jenson Button and the team, you have to take hats off to them because they've got on with the job really professionally and been on a roll since German Grand Prix. Although, little shake of the head there from Jenson Button because he didn't get the tyres quite warm enough on the out lap. He suffered as a consequence. He was 4th fastest, while Takuma Sato here put in an absolutely blistering lap and got his 3rd P3 this season. And he's already had a P2 in Europe as well, and he was 1/10 faster than Jenson Button, and that delighted the team and David Richards.
Ferrari were totally embarrassed here last year. Michael Schumacher in qualifying and in the race. The Bridgestones, though, are working superbly. He's on pole for the 6th time, Tony.
Well, Ross Brawn said it's taken a long time to develop this new compound of Bridgestone tyre. They've worked very hard with the Ferrari engineers together, and he put together a scintillating lap. But Schumacher said, we're going to concentrate on the race, not worry about the Constructors' title, and he's looking forward to it here. The car's sliding around a lot, working away at the wheel. Great job from Schumacher.
Tony, unless your name is Nigel Mansell, if you don't start in the top 3 here, you don't win the race. Just chat us through the grid, could you?
Yeah, of course.
62nd pole for Michael Schumacher as Ferrari lock out that vital front row for the 4th time this year. But BAR show unity and speed, 3rd and 4th. Sato beating Button. 5th, Alonso aims to rocket past rivals BAR. Sub Antonio Pizzonia did a great job to out-qualify Montoya, who was 7th. Said he sacrificed qualifying speed for race pace. Fisichella, a great job for Sauber in 8th. 9th, truly affected by rain. 10th, Räikkönen expected top 5. Wrong tyre choice. 11th, Webber's Jaguar, well balanced, well prepared. 12th, a critical DC tyre choice, too conservative. 13th, Panis in the Toyota, crosswinds affected him. 14th, Kleon's Jaguar. 15th, Grand Prix returnee Zonta for Toyota. 16th, Heidfeld. 17th Pantano for Jordan. 18th Baumgartner desperately wants to finish in front of the home crowd. 19th Bruni in the Minardi. 20th, no time. Massa starts last after an engine change.
We have just 6 races to go now in F1 2004. Let me just remind you how things stand in the Drivers' Championship now. A record equaling 11 victories for Schumacher, the same as 2002. He's also in line to be an unprecedented 4 times Hungarian winner. Barrichello looking good for the runners-up spot. A 13-point gap to Button. Trulli driving his 125th Grand Prix. Alonso was the youngest ever F1 winner here for Renault last year. Then Montoya, he was on the podium last time we were here. Coulthard's been runner-up in Hungary 3 times, and Raikkonen filled that position last year. The constructors, it's been a foregone conclusion for ages. This looks like D-Day. Schumacher and Barrichello have that astonishing 99-point advantage. 10 more points will be enough to confirm Ferrari's 6th title on the bounce. Believe me, it means a huge amount here in the paddock. BAR just 9 points behind Renault. That's a proper contest for second spot. Williams plus 10 on McLaren. Sauber look good for 6. Toyota, Jaguar, Jordan and Minardi, they are battling for the scraps. Right, let's drive you around the Hungaroring, almost as tough to overtake here as Monaco. The circuit's hardly used apart from this weekend. The characteristics change very quickly. Some drivers like Juan Pablo Montoya say it's a glorified go-kart track. We've had quality racing here though. You're with Mark Blundell, you're on board with the pole sitter, Michael Schumacher and his Ferrari.
Just the master at work, Michael Schumacher and his Ferrari on the front straight, coming down into turn 1, 180 miles an hour. On the brakes, about 100 metres. Just watch him turn in here. Look, a little twitch in the car, copes of it very well. No problem on the exit. Hard acceleration down into turn 2. A critical corner here, needs to get a clean entry. Apply the throttle nicely and get the exit for this downhill acceleration. Up to 5th, 6th, 7th gear, 175 miles an hour. Don't blink because you'll miss the turning point. There he goes, nice and clean. About 2G lateral low. Turn 5 now, chases the corners, long and hard. Accelerates well. Comes up to the chicane on the brakes. Car's very stable. Takes all the curving on the inside. Nice, clean acceleration. Into turn 8 now, we come to the left-right combination. The front end of the Ferrari is so good. Gets Schumacher in where he wants it. We're at 10 now. Listen to the throttle pedal here. Little hesitation, but nothing to slow the red car down. He's into 12 now, slight braking downhill. Tucks the front end in. There's a slight oversteer on the exit, but nothing to worry Schumacher. 13 here, puts the front end in. A little bit of understeer away from the apex, picks it back up. A few bumps to contend with, not a problem. The last corner, get that car in there. Get on the front as hard as you can. Rock it off, just pick up the exit curving. This is pole position number 62 for Michael Schumacher.
That is 3 shy of Ayrton Senna's all-time record. Looks good for the almighty Reds then, doesn't it, Tony? But remember what happened to him last year? Barrichello's wheel in particular?
Very embarrassing, a low point. Rubens Barrichello, look at this, who's going down the straight at 180 miles per hour, and suspension collapsed at the rear. The whole drive shaft pulled out and a big crash for Rubens Barrichello. And Schumacher, they're both struggling on tyres, defining moment last year. A low point, real embarrassment. Look, he's about to be lapped by Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso from pole position, winning this race. Look at that, straight past Michael Schumacher. Schumacher struggled to 8th, and there was the youngest ever Grand Prix winner, Fernando Alonso, rubbing the world champion's nose in the dirt.
He is on the front row. Let's have a word with him. It is Rubens Barrichello.
Rubens, it's a long run down to that first corner, same corner where you had that horrendous accident last year. Now, you've got to get there ahead of Michael at the start to have any hope of beating him today, haven't you?
Well, I mean, you got to have an open mind and think that you can beat it at some point of the race. Obviously, the start would be a great thing because I think, you know, having different tires than him, at some point of the race, I'm going to be faster, and I think at some other point, he's going to be faster. So, but it's a little bit dirty on this side. Although it was rainy yesterday and somebody has been passing by, I think it's dirty on this side. But it's still, I would put my money on myself still, because you have to be positive.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
He's won here before. How do you expect him to go?
I think he'd go very, very well. You know, he's perhaps on a slightly different strategy, different tyres, and he loves this kind of circuit. It's a driver's circuit. It's very, very tight, a bit like a kart track. But there's the master there, Michael Schumacher.
He was lapped last year by this fella, Fernando Alonso.
Well, Fernando, we were talking to Michael yesterday. He says he fears you most for the race today. He does.
I don't think so. I think They are very competitive here, much more than the other teams, and they should win quite easy this race.
Thanks, man.
Would you expect the Ferraris, Tony, looking at the race to run and hide? How can the rest of the field get in amongst the red cars?
Well, they can only really do it through strategy, or if the Ferraris have problems, you know, they might not be able to get off the line. Especially Ruben's going to have problems. He's on the dirty side of the grid. The clean side is the outside where pole is. That's where the cars have all been running. As we said yesterday, there's something like 40 tons of sand they cleared away from this circuit. And there's Bernie Ecclestone.
Very public cuddle and kiss for Bernie.
Yes, well, that's his daughter, so he's entitled to do that. But of course, and Michael Schumacher knows this place so very, very well. Incredible experience, and it's going to be difficult to beat him today.
Could be Michael Schumacher's unprecedented 12th victory in a single season. He could be the only man to win here 4 times. Don't forget Jenson Button behind the Ferraris. The Constructors' title very much up for Ferrari as well. Sato will be involved in the 170-mile-an-hour banzai to the first corner. Watch Fernando Alonso starting on the clean side of the grid in the Renault. It's the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it's coming right up. You are back with us just outside of Budapest. It's normally baking hot for this one. Current temperature, though, a very pleasant 25 degrees. A lot higher, though, 40 on the track for round 13 of F1 2004, the Hungarian Grand Prix. 70 laps in the company of Mark Blundell and James Allen.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a thankfully sunny Hungaroring, as Jim was saying, after rainstorms yesterday, which missed the qualifying session by just half an hour. And what chaos that would have wrought if the rain had come earlier on. It's a pleasure now today to see more traditional August weather for this afternoon's Grand Prix. Tremendous crowd, mixture of Hungarians, a lot of Finns on holiday, always popular with the Finns this Grand Prix. Austrians as well, having lost their Grand Prix this season. This is the nearest one for them, really, to travel to. And they're enjoying the atmosphere here this afternoon. Significant afternoon today, certainly for Ferrari. As we've heard, they're likely to clinch their 14th Constructors' Championship today. Just 10 points will do it. And Schumacher going for an all-time record, 12th Grand Prix win in a season. One record which has had a little bit less airplay is that if Schumacher does win here this afternoon, it'll be his 7th Grand Prix victory in a row. That's only been done once before in the history of the sport, back in 1953 by Alberto Ascari driving, guess what? A Ferrari, you guessed it. Monaco then still the only blip in what has otherwise been a perfect season for Michael Schumacher. But there's plenty of other stuff going on today. Very interesting situation certainly in the battle between Renault and BAR for second in the championship. Ross Brawn there, technical director of Ferrari, just surveying the scene. There's Takuma Sato, as I say. He's got an important job to do today because Renault are just 9 points ahead of BAR in the Constructors' Championship, and they seem to have lost their rhythm of late. Last 2 races, they've scored only 6 points in comparison with 14 by BAR, and you can see that with Sato and Button there at the front of the grid, Alonso 5th and Trulli in 9th place. Renault certainly on the back foot here this weekend, and that's certainly something we'll be keeping our eye out for. Williams, you can see Antonio Pizzonia there. Good effort by him out qualifying much more experienced teammate Montoya. Pizzonia still deputising for the injured Ralf Schumacher. We're hearing he will be back in the car at Monza, but medical bulletins from the Schumacher camp are pretty common at the moment, and there you can see the rest of the start grid as well. David Coulthard underlining what a terrible mistake McLaren made yesterday. Raikkonen 10th, Coulthard 12th. They went the wrong way on tyre choice. They chose too hard a compound of tyre, and what a terrible mistake, Mark, for a team which the last few Grand Prix, I mean, let's face it, Raikkonen's been challenging for the victory at Silverstone, Hockenheim as well, and it's a tremendous setback for them.
It is a setback, and as you say, when they brought the D-Spec car into play, definitely made an elevation up the grid, and we would have expected them to be a lot stronger here at the Hungaroring. But the one thing what may play into their hands a little is the fact that the track temperature, James, is significantly climbed up in the last 20 minutes, another 10 degrees, 42 at this present time. That will play into the hands of the McLaren guys with a hard tyre, and it could obviously play into the hands of Schumacher with a harder tyre, because I'm convinced that Rubens Barrichello should be a strong candidate to be leading the race, because he is on the softer Bridgestone.
Yeah, there's Barrichello starting from the outside of the front row of the grid. There's the local hero Zsolt Baumgartner, who's been staring down at us from billboards all over town, advertising water and various other products. He's a Hungarian sporting star, and there aren't really too many of those in the firmament, although I noticed that one of their swimmers got a bronze medal yesterday in the pool in the Olympics, so obviously plenty going on for the Hungarians at the moment. Engines firing up then, always an exciting moment in a Grand Prix. The real action about to begin. Mechanics pulling away from the cars, tyre blankets being taken away. There's Eddie Jordan, his two cars, Heidfeld and Pantano, 16th and 17th on the grid. A lot of stories swirling around Jordan for the future. And there you can see, for once this weekend, we have got a nice day here in Budapest as we go off on the parade lap. 70 laps of this 2.7-mile circuit, 14 corners, most of them pretty slow. It's on the slower end of the scale of Grand Prix circuits in the Grand Prix season. Some people call it Monaco without the barriers, but it's a bit faster than that. And Rubens Barrichello's been left behind for some reason. Doesn't seem to have got away. Now he's got away slowly, but we've got more waved yellow flags still at the back of the grid. Has anybody else run into trouble? I can't see anybody else, Mark.
No, it looks okay at the back there, but Rubens will be a little bit unhappy with not getting away clean. He obviously doesn't have some doubt in his mind when he comes up to the grid to start. What is significant though, James, to me, is that there wasn't much dust there on the inside of the circuit. Normally when those guys pull away, there's a lot of dust that comes up, but I think yesterday we had a rain belt. It went for the EF3000 race, and maybe we can see a cleaner circuit. Minardi there obviously was stuck at the back. They've restarted it and should be away. Yeah,
that's Gianmaria Bruni. He's got going, but the teams will need to let Michael Schumacher and others know it's going to be a long wait before Bruni gets himself round to the proper grid, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, of course, Michael Schumacher does not want to arrive on pole position and have to wait for the Minardi to pull up on the back of the grid while his car's cooking there. These cars obviously got radiators on board, but they've not got the luxury of a fan there to keep them cool. They need the air to be flushed through the rads to keep them efficient.
Now, what about Rubens Barrichello, I hear you saying? Well, it looked to me as though he got away before the last car went past him. In fact, Bruni is behind him, of course, as well. So that means he will be able to rejoin his normal grid position, even though he was slow away from the start, provided that was the case and that none of the other cars, not all of the other cars, got past him before he finally got going. So a little bit of chaos before we've even got this Grand Prix going. Everybody warming their tyres up. Montoya there said this weekend he thinks Jenson Button's nuts to want to go to the BMW team and leave BAR behind. Certainly at the moment, BAR the stronger outfit. And they're the sea of characters, many of them from the United Kingdom, a lot of British teams in Formula One, obviously, all making their way back to the garages as this Grand Prix about to get underway.
Bruni is going to actually pull up to the back of the grid, James. Yeah, he won't retake his actual position there. Massa will be 19th in effect, but actually will be on the back there.
So, just coming up onto the grid, everyone give him a squirt on the throttle just to build up the hydraulic pressure in the system. The start, we're not allowed launch controls anymore in Formula One, but nevertheless, the hydraulic system, absolutely critical to a Formula One car, controls the throttle, gearbox, everything else. A very, very important part, making sure you have the pressure. Looked like a car just diving down the pit lane to me. I think it was Baumgartner. Zsolt Baumgartner's going to the pits, but let's focus on the start of this Grand Prix. Charlie Whiting on the left, the race director. We'll get this race going in a moment. We've had to a little bit of drama already. Let's hope we can get it away cleanly and safely. When the 5 lights go out, we'll be racing in Budapest. Go! Schumacher nicely away. You've got the Renault fast starting right down the pit wall. BAR goes to block. And the Renault's got through. I think that's Alonso then, trying to fight now for second place off the line. Schumacher said he was concerned about the Renaults off the start line, and Alonso doing a super job. Barrichello trying to resist as they go down to the second corner, and has crashed there. One of the Toyotas involved.
What a super start there by Alonso. We know the Renaults are quick, just like a rocket off the grid, and he's already put himself in contention in third place. You see a move there by one of the Williams up the inside of the BAR.
Absolutely then, working away down the lap, it's Michael Schumacher, Barrichello, Alonso, bit of a touch there between the Renault and I think it was Jenson Button. Jarno Trulli also in the mix, Schumacher leading, Barrichello second, Alonso third, Montoya fourth, Button fifth, Sato down to 6th place, Trulli 7th, 8th Raikkonen, 9th Fisichella and 10th David Coulthard. Pitsonia has had a very poor start and he's down in 11th place. 6th on the grid then, Antonio Pitsonia. We didn't see what happened, but hopefully we'll get a replay. Drop right down into 11th place as Schumacher and Barrichello now, with Alonso dropping a little bit back from him, make their way. And Zonta, we're told, was the Toyota that we saw having a spin there. Looked like a bit of front-end damage as well on that car.
Yeah, it definitely looked like he had some carbon damage on there, and that's unfortunate for Ricardo Zonta, obviously replacing Cristiano D'Amato for this race and for the rest of the season, we're told. It would be nice for him to have a clean start.
End of the first lap then, Schumacher leading by all 1.1 from Barrichello, Alonso third, dropping back 2.4 seconds, Montoya up into 4th place. That's a good effort from Montoya. He started 7th on the grid, so very, very strong by him. Jenson Button, he's down to 5th from 4th on the grid, and Jarno Trulli has benefited there. He's up into 6th place. Takuma Sato seems to have lost ground, Mark. He's down in 8th place at the moment. He started 3rd.
Big disappointment for Sato, considering you started 3rd, you dropped yourself some 5 or 6 places on lap 1. That's going to be a hard task now to work your way back through.
Well, I talked about the significant battle for 2nd place in the World Championship between BAR and Renault, and certainly on the grid BAR had the upper hand, but now in the Grand Prix, Alonso 3rd ahead of Button in 5th, Trulli in 6th. It looks like Renault, the pendulum swung towards them, and we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the Grand Prix.
And I think this is why there's been these rumours kicking about over the weekend, James, that Sato maybe is not consistent enough to stay within that team. We'll have to wait and see. There have been a lot of people saying that he needs to get those points in the bag for BAR. They desperately need to move into the constructors area so they can move up the grid next year.
Well, I for one would be very sad to see Takuma Sato leaving BAR and Formula One, because he's such an exciting young racer. But as you say, I know the team have been frustrated by occasions like Monaco, where pole position was there for the taking and he just didn't take it. And his consistency, there are 1 or 2 question marks over it, I think, within the team. Let's hope that with all the ructions following the Button move, that Sato is able to hold on. Right now, he's got a real fight on his hands, though. He's in 8th place in a car which has shown itself all weekend to be very strong. But Kimi Raikkonen has got in front of him in the McLaren. There is Kimi Raikkonen. And, well, as you said before, Mark, these track conditions today are a lot more suited to the McLaren package in Hungary than was yesterday's qualifying. And Raikkonen, a man on a mission at the moment.
I think Ron Dennis has been quoted this weekend as saying he still feels that Raikkonen's capable of getting on the podium. And they've got some level of confidence as the heat builds up, track temperature climbs. That Michelin, although it's the harder of the 2 compounds, will come into its own during the race.
Yeah, Ron Dennis, as you can see, could get the restart. Look at Alonso, fantastic start. It's like a missile, that car, isn't it? And Trulli on the outside as well. Here we go, riding on board with Alonso. Fillets the 2 BARs.
I mean, that's incredible there. It's like a needle, and he has to thread the cotton through it. He does it with precision. He's almost brave enough to have a look down the inside of Barrichello, but I think makes the right move. Just sits himself back in 3rd position there. But those Renaults are unreal.
See if we can work out what happened to Sato. You see, he was like taken a surprise by the Renault diving in front of him, but at the moment he's on the left as you go down, you can see. And trying to work out what happened to him and Pitsonia. Both of them lost a lot of ground at that start. There's Roberto Carlos, plays for Real Madrid. Soon there's Zonta and Webber getting together.
Yeah, Zonta and Webber, and we think we've seen Webber come into the pit lane, caught up in that incident there.
Webber didn't come into the pits, I don't think. He's in 12th place at the moment, but Schumacher's pace at the moment is absolutely mesmerising here on lap 4 of 70 in Budapest. A 1:19.921 that last lap by Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello a second slower. Tremendous early pace then by Schumacher as we ride on board with the Sauber. This is Felipe Massa with Giorgio Pantano just in front. It's a battle for 15th and 16th places. Massa very unlucky yesterday. The 2 Saubers extremely quick in pre-qualifying. 3rd and 4th, in fact. And, well, Fisichella managed to translate that into a wonderful 8th on the grid. But Massa had engine problems, and well, he started from the back of the grid, having taken the engine penalty. That's one of the scraps in the field at the moment. This is the battle for 16th and 17th. Another good scrap also going on between Coulthard and Webber for 11th. Also Trulli, Raikkonen, Sato, all together in the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th places.
And Massa's making inroads in. We know that he had to start at the back there because of the engine penalty. They lost the engine. But what we do know, he's on the Bridgestone tyre, and this Bridgestone's been so consistent during the weekend. It's got, and watch him just down the inside there, the Jordan. Nice and clean, locks up slightly, and actually looks like he may even lose that place. Just overcooked it under the braking area. He's going to have to do that work all over again.
It looks like he's very determined to get through though, Mark, doesn't he? Pantano though locks a wheel, that gives a chance. A chance for Massa. He carried so much speed into turn 1 then. Far too much really, deep on the brakes. Didn't quite work for him, he took the position, but then Pantano able to snatch it back again. And there's a furious scrap here between two of the young guns in Formula 1.
Yeah, he really just needs to bide his time. He's obviously got the car underneath him, which is far quicker than a Jordan. Just needs to position himself. But this racetrack in particular is not easy to overtake on. It's very much a one-line circuit. Very short. There's not a great big area to really let loose apart from that front straight. And again, that takes no time whatsoever to cover it.
Well, they made changes here at the Hungaroring over the last couple of years. Turn 11, 12, 13. This section here now that those cars are approaching, just to try and encourage overtaking at another possible place. Massa certainly would be welcome of any opportunity to make a pass. This is lap 6 though. Schumacher leading by almost 3 seconds from Barrichello in 2nd place. Alonso still 3rd, but he's 6 seconds behind the race leader. Montoya almost 9 behind the race leader now. Button is still 5th, and then it's Trulli 6th, Raikkonen 7th, Sato 8th, Fisichella 9th, and Pitsonia still in 10th place as Massa once again tries to get past Pantano.
He's making a bit of a meal of this. He should be able to get past a little bit easier than that. But interestingly now, the Ferraris are a second a lap clear in race pace compared to everybody else. And I'm still slightly disappointed with the fact that Barrichello is not faster than Schumacher because he's on that softer Bridgestone. It should be the quicker combination.
Well, we heard Barrichello on the grid saying to Louise that he felt that at certain periods in this Grand Prix he would have the faster car because he's on the soft Bridgestone tyre. At other times Michael Schumacher would have the advantage. How do you expect that to play out? When will we actually see those differences?
Well, for me the advantage should be now because he has got the softer tyre. He should be able to push and get that extra grip level and produce a faster lap time. The other thing as well, James, as we mentioned earlier, it rained yesterday. That cleans up the circuit. The circuit gets a little bit greener, and the softer tyres should be able to pick up what grip's available. And as the race rubbers in, the tyres get more and more rubber down into the circuit, then the harder tyre guys will make more progress.
Well, Barrichello is certainly a canny operator. Won this Grand Prix a couple of years ago when Ferrari clinched the Constructors' Championship here in 2002. And well, he certainly knows a thing or two about winning a Grand Prix, but he hasn't done it since Suzuka last year. Some suspicions that maybe Barrichello carrying a little bit more fuel than Michael Schumacher. Possibly that was why he wasn't able to get that pole position off him yesterday. Time will tell. Certainly Schumacher very anxious all season to get himself on the front of the grid where possible, and certainly achieved it yesterday. Schumacher then 3 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Alonso 3rd, Montoya 4th, Button 5th, and Trulli is 6th at the moment. Lap 9 of the Hungarian Grand Prix here in Budapest. Just looking at a replay of the start again, you can see there Ricardo Zonta damaging his car, but he's not come in to repair anything on that as a result of it. Nobody yet making a pit stop, but we are getting close to the first round of scheduled stops here in Budapest. Some discussion going on with the Ferrari timing wall, and Michael Schumacher, Mark, is certainly forcing the pace at the moment. Possible that he might be getting building up to his first pit stop here of the afternoon.
Well, we anticipated that the first stop would come within a 10 to 12 lap range, and yeah, you've been seeing Schumacher pushing very hard. That may indicate again that yes, he's running slightly lower on the fuel limit because he's got that harder of the two compounds with the Bridgestone tyre.
Well, unseen by us, that scrap we were watching just before of Massa and Pantano. Massa has got in front of Pantano because Pantano went off track down at turn 11, so I'm not quite sure whether he was assisted or he went off all by himself, but that's what happened. There's Chris Dyer, race engineer of Michael Schumacher, and a bit more dialogue going on than you would normally expect in the run-up to a pit stop. Normally they're very clear and precise in their instructions. Obviously tyre pressures, I would think, Mark, is what they're discussing. How much air pressure do they want in those tyres?
Well, it's just a situation. I mean, they know what pressures they normally would run, but depending on the balance of the car, the handling of it, some of the tyre might inflate the left or the right side slightly more than what they would like, and that just gives a slight imperfection in the handling itself. Schumacher will keep relating back information on what's going on with the balance of his car, and of course the telemetry is there for those guys to see all the information.
Okay, diving into the pits then is third place Fernando Alonso, the first man to blink here this afternoon at the Hungaroring. That will let Montoya, Button, Trulli and Raikkonen all go through. Pretty much a clockwork stop. Also coming into the pits, the Sauber, Giancarlo Fisichella from 8th place, diving into the pits as well. Nice stop then by Alonso, just 7 seconds, around about 20 laps of fuel. That's worth of fuel going into there. They say 15 on the computer, we'll see. But Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, James, down at McLaren, I think Kimi Raikkonen's in trouble. Can you see him on the timing screens? He went by, and I think there might have been a bad problem. He's dropped down to 11th. He was right with Takuma Sato and has dropped down to 11th, so trouble down here at McLaren for Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, Kimi's obviously had some mishap there because he dropped off about 10 seconds on that one lap there, and David Coulthard's got in front of him. Maybe we might get something picking up on the cameras on a replay if he's had a spin or so forth, but that clearly looks like he's in a major problem.
Well, McLaren have had their share of reliability problems this year. 8 times already they've retired from Grand Prix to compare to just the once for Ferrari, and that was an accident for Schumacher though. Into the pits comes Rubens Barrichello from 2nd place, so he didn't have more fuel on board than Michael Schumacher. Ferrari go to work. Very, very quick stop indeed, much less than that. Everybody's diving in now. Here comes Alonso, here comes, Montoya, here comes Button, here comes Trulli, all diving into the pit lane for their first scheduled stop. This is lap 12 of the Grand Prix. Out goes Barrichello, just rejoining in front of Takuma Sato in the BAR. That was close. Very important for him to get out in front of Sato.
Yeah, he needs to make sure he's in front of Sato, but obviously Sato will be trying to push like mad to get in front of him. But Sato should be also coming into the pits very soon, lap 11 as we are now.
Well, this looks like it's worked out quite well for Mark Webber. He was in 10th place before this round of pit stops, but he's just come out in front of Juan Montoya, and that's going to put him around about 4th or 5th. He's still got his stop to make, but Webber, I know, carrying a little bit more fuel as Klein goes off the road in the other Jaguar.
Yeah, Christian Klein just getting a little bit too wide there up at turn 4. It's a blind entry to that corner, and you literally need to be 6 inches wrong on the apex point, and they're 6 inches out of the exit of the corner. Michael Schumacher now comes into the pit for his first stop.
Race leader comes in then. A lot of discussion going on in the run-up to this stop between Chris Dyer, the engineer, and the mechanics for the new set of tyres to go on. Very slick stop. When was the last time Ferrari messed up a pit stop?
Yeah, that was a very, very quick stop indeed. In fact, I think that's probably about 6.5 seconds actually when those wheels were on and the car was down and it was away.
Ted Kravitz has news in the pits for us.
It's definitely a mechanical problem for Kimi Raikkonen. His engineer Mark Slade very worried on the pit wall. As I say that, the McLaren mechanics come out for Kimi's stop. Every time he's been passing by the pit straight, his engine's been sounding very rough. It's either an engine problem or he's stuck in some kind of low gear. Anyway, let's see what he does when they pit him.
Well, we'll watch out for that. Here's Takuma Sato. He was in 3rd place before he made this stop. Obviously, he's making a later stop than many of the rest. He was down in 8th place before everything else shook out, and that's Nick Heidfeld just coming through in front of him. Heidfeld has yet to make a stop, and we'll believe that Raikkonen is now in the pits. There he is.
Now Raikkonen's come in there. As Ted was saying, obviously there is some major problem with the car because his lap times have dropped down significantly. They just have to monitor it from the pit wall, and obviously from Kimi's comments inside the car just to see where he can cope with what's gone wrong.
Well, significant. Look at the speed those two came out of the pits. Look at the speed Raikkonen's coming out of the pits. There is something wrong with that car. He's not up to speed at all, is he? He's being left behind. Something very wrong with that McLaren.
Yeah, it sounds sick. You can hear it from here, actually. It's not running cleanly on all cylinders at all. And at this point in time, doesn't look like Kimi with the McLaren will be out much longer.
He seems to be the one that gets the lion's share of the bad luck with reliability at McLaren, doesn't he, Kimi Raikkonen? As Bruni comes out of the pits for Minardi.
Yeah, Raikkonen suffered with a lot of failures and problems technically on the car. Unfortunately, we saw him with that great run at Hockenheim, and we didn't get to see whether he would be able to stay there with Michael Schumacher because of his exit off the circuit. But we know that this guy's got the talent when the car's underneath him, and definitely a star of the future.
So this is lap 14. Michael Schumacher leading the Grand Prix after the first round of scheduled stops. Barrichello second, Pitsonia third, Alonso fourth. Mark Webber, yet to make his stop, is in 5th place. Montoya is 6th, Button is 7th, and 8th is Jarno Trulli. And well, plenty of gravel has come out of one of the 2 Ferraris at that stop. And we're riding on board with Sato, trying to get past to Nick Heidfeld. That's the scrap for 9th and 10th places. Sato stopped, Heidfeld hasn't, and that's Heidfeld's teammate Pantano.
Sato would really like Heidfeld to move over, or him to get by quite quickly, because at this point in time he's holding him up a considerable amount, some second a lap slower than Jordan is from the pace of the BAR.
Ted Kravitz, Raikkonen coming in to retire the car.
Right in front of me. Terrible, bad luck for Kimi Raikkonen. The engine's still going well. What are they doing? They're lifting up the front. That's unusual. Maybe it's something's wrong. Oh no, they're only lifting it up just to wheel it back in. The engine sounded fine at the pit stop, so you've got to assume maybe it's hydraulic system or gearbox. But another retirement, a bitter day for Kimi Raikkonen.
There's sadness there to see Kimi being pushed back into the garage, because that's one of the guys that we felt would be making inroads into the front end of the pack. But it'll be interesting to know what has actually gone wrong with that car there. It did come out the pit lane very, very slowly. To me, at this point, up here, it didn't sound too clean. But Ted says the engine was running cleanly. That's how it should be.
Pitsonia, poor start from him, from a good grid slot, but got himself back up to 4th place before making that pit stop. He's gone the longest then of the front runners, apart from Mark Webber, in this first stint. And that's quite interesting strategy from Pitsonia, carrying 3 laps more fuel than Montoya. Shows you that his qualifying performance yesterday, to out-qualify Montoya with 3 laps more fuel in the car, that is really, really credit-worthy.
That's an impressive effort, and it will do him no harm whatsoever down the pit lane when people have a look back at this race and study the results and the strategies, which all these guys do, all the technical people, just to see what Pitsonia has actually made of that qualifying with that extra fuel on board.
There's Kimi Raikkonen, retired in Australia, retired in Malaysia, retired in Bahrain, retired in Monaco, and again at the Nürburgring, retired in Germany when his wing flew off, retires in Hungary. A miserable season for the man who almost beat Michael Schumacher at the World Championship last year, missed out by 2 points at the final Grand Prix in Suzuka. Came into this season thinking this would be his year, and it really has not gone to plan for Kimi Raikkonen. There's Mark Webber, still yet to make his stop. He's in 4th place at the moment, 26 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher, but he's ahead of Montoya, Button, Trulli, Sato and Pitsonia. And, well, he'll slot back in after his stop, which must be imminent, around about 9th place mark, and a good platform for him to build up.
Yeah, Webber comes in for his first stop.
Now it's Christian Klein actually coming in. Sorry to correct you, but that's Klein diving in the sister Jaguar. Reasonably long fuel stop for him there. And he goes back out on track. He was in 12th place there, Christian Klein, before that, behind David Coulthard.
We're just looking at the times here, James, and Button and Trulli are losing about a second a lap to the Jaguar of Webber at this point in time. So that's quite interesting. It must just be purely the amount of fuel load what's on the Jag at this point, just at the low side of things. And the other guys have been in for the pit, they're carrying the heavier load.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? Certainly Schumacher and Barrichello lapping in the 1:20s, Alonso in the 1:21s, which is the kind of pace that you'd expect Montoya, Button and Trulli to be running at, but they're Montoya's a second and a half behind Webber. Webber now dives into the pit, so let's take a look and see if Montoya can step up the pace now that the Jaguars come in. Can't really see whether or not he was holding them up particularly, but they've got the fuel load on board. Let's see if they can step their pace up now that Mark Webber has dived in. There he goes, didn't get a clock on that one. 6.3, so a very long first stint, 17-lap first stint for Mark Webber. And once again, if you look at his qualifying performance, 11th, ahead of one of the 2 McLarens with that much fuel in the car. Good effort by Mark Webber.
Good effort indeed. He pulls out the pit lane there behind David Coulthard, puts himself back into P10 or 11. It's interesting here, James. We're obviously having a look at the fuel nozzle on the Ferrari team, and that's a problem which might be for the next stops. Obviously, they need to make sure that nozzle is going to be efficient and effective when they slide it onto the car to refuel.
Well, to know you've got a problem, You have to well, figure it out first, obviously, but wonder whether the problem has actually affected the stops of either Schumacher or Barrichello. Did they get not enough fuel in? Is that why the rig is being taken apart? Certainly over the years we've seen a fair number of fuel rig issues, haven't we? And Ferrari have not been exempt from them either. So we'll wait and see with that situation with interest. Meanwhile, Schumacher leading by 6.8 from Barrichello. This is the early part of the second stint when you'd expect Barrichello to be faster than Schumacher on those softer Bridgestones. He isn't. And look at this, they are going to have to bring one of the two cars back in again from the looks of things. Which one is it? Is it Schumacher or Barrichello? Barrichello, the fastest man on the racetrack at the moment. Just clearing a bit of fuel away. This is, well, here's me saying, when was the last time you saw problems in the pits for Ferrari? And more or less straight away afterwards, we've got some.
Well, it's of interest we watch this to see who does actually come in to take some more fuel on board. We did say Schumacher's stop was very quick. It was about 6.5 seconds there. But there again, Barrichello's was very efficient as well.
Well, Barrichello's the man who set the fastest first sector on this lap, which would indicate he's obviously got to get a bit of a move on to try and make up for lost time. But certainly the TV director seems to think it's Barrichello that's going to have to come in for more fuel. Let's see if he's right. We cut to scrap out on track. Jordan and Jaguar. That is Clean and Pantano battle for 16th and 17th. Both Ferraris have gone past then. Neither of them have come into the pits. Ferrari have put one of the fuel rigs away. They've got another one out now. It's all going off in the Ferrari garage. And something very strange going on down there. Meanwhile, we're looking at Pantano and Clean, 16th and 17th on the racetrack at the moment.
Christian Cleed not been confirmed yet at Jaguar for next year. He's done a sensible job, but he hasn't really set the world alight with his comparisons against Webber, which all in all is what you need to do in Formula One. And I think Jaguar are overall quite happy with the guy, and it'll be with interest we see if he's about next season.
Still work going on, as you can see. They're not happy down there in the Ferrari garage. Problem with, well, clearly there's a problem with the fuel hose itself. The coupling onto the fuel bows up. As Pantano once again locks a wheel whilst being pursued. We saw it with Massa early in the Grand Prix. And now here again with Clean, who probably wouldn't have imagined he'd find himself down in 17th place in a Jaguar, battling with a Jordan, especially considering his teammate Webber is 11th at the moment, having been as high as 4th in this Grand Prix.
Well, they're soon to be coming up for the Michael Schumacher hammer, because they're about to be lapped within the next lap or so themselves. Michael Schumacher's got to be careful that he doesn't get mixed up in the little scrap what they're having. And one of the Sauber's Massas in the pit, having a new nose fitted, obviously been entangled with somebody else. Quickly in, quickly out.
Yes, he was indeed. There's Michael Schumacher then coming through to lap these two cars. Clean and Pantano's is only lap 20 of the Grand Prix. He's already put a lap on both of the Minardis in 18th and 19th. Bruni ahead of the local man Baumgartner. Just one retirement so far from the Grand Prix. That was Kimi Räikkönen 4 laps ago. And, well, Baumgartner not giving the Hungarians a great deal to cheer about at the moment. Well, we're staying on at Ferrari with the refueling rigs. Ted Kravitz, hopefully you can tell us what's going on.
I'm down at Ferrari. There's a stink of fuel in the garage. I asked them what happened. They said there was a leak at Rubens's stop. There was a leak where the nozzle connects with the car. Some fuel got out and was sort of spilling around all over the ground. Only a small amount. Now they think they got the right amount of fuel, more or less, in the car for Rubens. They may have to bring him in a couple of laps before they ordinarily would have, but they're checking everything to decide, to discover where the leak came from.
Well, certainly Barrichello at the moment is a lot faster than Michael Schumacher. The last lap, normal lap, he was half a second quicker. Schumacher lost a couple of seconds on that lap by having to get through the lap traffic. Now Barrichello, of course, has to do the same thing, but Barrichello has brought the gap down to 4.2 seconds to his team leader, and he's pushing very, very hard at the moment. Schumacher leading then on lap 21 from Barrichello second, Alonso third, Montoya fourth, Button fifth, and Trulli in 6th place. Lap 23 of the 70-lap Hungarian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher leading Rubens Barrichello now by 6.3 seconds. Schumacher's doing a better job of getting through the lap traffic than Barrichello is. Barrichello had been catching him before they came up to the traffic, and you can see there Felipe Massa, who started from the back of the grid after taking an engine change on Saturday morning, retiring from the Grand Prix. We saw him a few laps ago, Mark, coming in for a new nose. We didn't see the incident, but I don't know if that's what's put him out of the Grand Prix, but certainly something has.
It's a disappointment for Massa and for Sauber. But the man on the move at the moment for me, James, Mark Webber. The guy's pushing very hard. He's sitting about half a second off the back of David Coulthard, and that just seems that he's making a little bit more of those Michelin tyres. And the Jag obviously has got some sensible levels of performance under him.
Certainly has, yeah. Jaguar going about their business very quietly throughout the weekend. Didn't look very spectacular throughout free practice, but then Webber, very impressive in qualifying, getting himself 11th on the grid. When you realise that he didn't come into the pits until lap 17, you realise just how much speed possibly there is in this car. And Webber, I guess, on a high. You know, the signature's on that Williams contract now. It's out in the public. Certainly on Friday afternoon, he was saying, I feel a weight off my shoulders now, that the secret is out. Everyone knows I'm going to Williams. I can just focus on driving the racing car. How much as a driver does that really lift off you and that kind of thing when the news is out?
Oh, it makes a big difference. I mean, you know, anybody, just to have your future mapped out for you, you know what you're doing in the next few years. And obviously for Mark Webber, as he's previously stated, this is a huge career move for him, going to the Williams BMW team. It's the start of a new era, because I think he is definitely going to be a Grand Prix winner in the not too distant future.
Here he is bearing down then on David Coulthard. He's been pushing him quite hard for the last few laps, and it's an important Grand Prix, this one, for Coulthard right now, with strong performances recently in this updated McLaren, but needing to remind everybody of his credentials really and his quality. Second most successful driver on the Formula One grid. And with Jenson Button's shock move to BMW Williams for next year, there is a plum seat at BAR Honda for next year. And a lot of people in the paddock seeming to think that Coulthard, if he keeps his nose clean over the next few Grand Prix, can get that seat. What's your view?
Well, it's definitely opened up the door there, but significantly, the pictures what we were seeing between Webber and Coulthard, that looks an obvious choice if they swap seats in some respects, of DC taking the Jaguar seat of Webber as he moves on to Williams. But yes, now with BAR's opening, that is also there.
Certainly it's a tough decision for BAR Honda, exactly what they're going to do. And as we said before, Sato into that equation as well. We're just looking at some super slow-mos. Nice to see the cars sliding. That's even with traction control, they still manage to slide these things. Fastest way on these cars, Mark, is to have them to be smooth as you can be, but even with these groove tyres, they do tend to sort of slide across the top of the road, don't they?
Yeah, they're just getting to the maximum level of adhesion, and the rear of the car just stepping out slightly. But of course, this circuit is renowned for getting dust and sand on it, and especially on the exits of the corners of the cars, sometimes leave the curving, kick up a little bit of dust, and it just loses you a slight amount of grip.
The drivers describing it to me that when you drive one of these modern generation Formula 1 cars, you glide into the corners. He said that's the feeling that we have. Pitch the car, but it glides. It's so much up on the edge of adhesion. Well, we've seen in the last few minutes some dramas down at the Ferrari garage. They've got some problem with their refueling hose. Let's get more on that from Ted Kravitz.
And they're still working on it, James. Nigel Stepney and team manager Stefano Domenicali are paying very close attention. They're just being very meticulous because they're still not quite sure what's wrong. Of course, when Rubens comes in, they can use Michael's rig. But if there's a problem with the connector on Rubens' car, then that could foul the nozzle on Michael's rig, and that could affect Michael's race. And today, they don't want that happening.
Yeah, obviously the thing what we need most for a race car is fuel to go in there, and they need to make sure that they've got all of that side of things tidied up. But the backup is there. They can swap strategies in terms of pit stops, and they can put Barrichello in. Oh, this is a replay of the Jaguar spinning off Mark Webber. That's unfortunate. Mark was making great progress. At the same point, they need to keep the car going forward to make inroads into the car in front.
And there goes the race leader putting a lap on Mark Webber following that spin. Webber then no longer monstering the back of David Coulthard's car. He's fallen well back now on Coulthard, who's already gone through to complete the next lap, and Webber is 13 seconds now behind Coulthard. That shows you how much you lose when you have a spin like that. Schumacher leading then on lap 27 from Barrichello, 5.7 seconds. Barrichello faster at the moment through the traffic, but 5.7 I think Schumacher will regard as quite a comfortable margin, particularly as Barrichello there has still to get past some lap traffic. Alonso third, Montoya fourth, Button fifth, Trulli sixth. Sato is doing well, got himself up into 7th place, having fallen down to 10th at one point. Pitsonia also, he went long on the first stint. He's up into 8th place, looking for points for the second race in a row for the Ralph Schumacher substitute. And then Fisichella 9th and Coulthard 10th. We've seen Felipe Massa retiring from the Grand Prix. Louis Goodman is with him.
Felipe, it was always going to be tough to come through from the back. We know you had a quick car, but what's gone wrong with it?
Yeah, the car was very good. I was, win some positions, and then in the end, I had a brake problem, so it was quite dangerous to carry on. The brake was very low, the pedal was quite long, and it was quite difficult to carry on, and then the team decided to stop.
Very sensible decision. Thanks, Felipe.
And that's a driver's worst nightmare, James, if you go to put your foot on the brake pedal and you've got hardly anything underneath you. Had it on occasions where the pedal just sinks to the bulkhead. But it's not causing a problem for Michael Schumacher at this time. He can clearly feel his brakes because the guy's just rattled in a 1:19.324, some 3 seconds quicker than anybody else on the race circuit. And again, I think that traffic element, he gets caught up, immediately he gets a clear track, and he breaks away with an extra second gap.
Certainly does. That is an enormous pace. 1:19.3 is 2.3 seconds faster than last year's pole position set by Fernando Alonso. That is an absolutely mighty time by Michael Schumacher on lap 28 of the Grand Prix. Barrichello scything his way through the traffic as well. That's Mark Webber, who made that mistake just a couple of laps ago, and that certainly seems to have discouraged him a little bit, getting well out of the way of Rubens Barrichello. And Webber's got Heidfeld to worry about now, coming up behind him in the Jordan. So it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped there for Mark Webber. Certainly riding Michael Schumacher. We're riding on board with a man who's desperately trying to close him down.
Well, we may see Schumacher coming into the pits soon. That may be the possible situation of him pushing himself as hard as ever and make that extra gap. He's increased himself between Barrichello at 8.5 seconds at this moment. One guy who's not doing that well at this point in time is Jarno Trulli. Jarno Trulli's dropped off pace slightly, and the gap's increased between him and Jenson Button.
Well, as we said at the top of the programme, Ferrari looking to clinch the Constructors' Championship here this afternoon. All they need is a comfortable 10 points. Michael Schumacher alone looks likely to provide those to them. Rubens Barrichello riding shotgun in second place is going to guarantee it, and that would be their 14th Constructors' Championship. Most significantly, though, 6th in a row. Now, Kimi Räikkönen we saw retiring. Louise Goodman is with him.
Kimi, that problem was obviously clearly slowing you for a couple of laps before you actually had to retire. What was it?
The engine just kept cutting out, so I think there was some sort of electric problem on the software or whatever it was. So.
Thanks, Kimi.
I'm glad to see my hearing's still good. The engine is cutting out, that's what it sounded like. And Kimi Räikkönen must be very, very upset with the whole affair there.
Takuma Sato dives in for his second stop of the afternoon, and Michael Schumacher is putting in the fastest lap of the race so far. He is first sector and second sector, the fastest we've seen. As we look at Sato exiting the pits, this is going to be some unholy time by Michael Schumacher when he comes through to complete this lap. As Sato makes his way back out onto the racetrack, was in 7th place before that stop, and did he get back out in front of David Coulthard? Looks like he did. So that is Sato back out in 9th place then in the BAR. Teammate Jenson Button in 5th, and Schumacher a 1:19.071. Are we watching qualifying or a race?
Well, they're qualifying times, aren't they? But Barrichello's responded with a 1:19.2. But I have to tell you, as a driver, when you know that you've got a softer tyre on board and you're still not matching your teammate with a harder tyre, you get demoralised. I mean, you really should be quicker. I mean, you've got the tyre underneath you to increase that track performance. He should be a little bit quicker than Michael Schumacher.
Alonso pits from 3rd place. There he is, the second stop of the afternoon. He had Montoya 14.5 seconds behind him. He will take, it'll be touch and go though with Jenson Button. No, looks like Alonso's going to take it reasonably comfortably, and Button not quite close enough, but Button also yet to make his second stop of the afternoon. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Just a quick word from Jaguar. It's the old problem. Mark Webber's rear tyres have gone off completely. They did set the car up to try and avoid this, but it hasn't worked, and they may pit him a couple of laps early, try and get some new rubber on the back.
We know that Jaguar have been struggling with the rear tyres. With the balance of the car, it does seem to increase the heat across them, and a little bit over time wear rate, and that obviously loses grip. And Webber tried to put understeer into his car to take some of that effort off the rear tyres, but clearly not worked.
So take the technicalities out of that. How do you actually set a car up so you don't damage the rear tyres?
Well, basically just try and put a little bit of understeer into the car, James, so you just take some of the workload off the rear of it. But, you know, in doing so, you can also make the balance quite difficult. If having too much understeer in the corner slows you down too much. Heidfeld comes into the pit lane now.
Looks like Williams' team getting ready as well. And rear tyre wear, certainly the bugbear of Jaguar last season. It's one of the things they wanted to design into this R5, was that it would be more gentle on its rear tyres in Grand Prix, because it certainly cost them a lot last year. Problem getting the right front on, though, for Heidfeld. What a shame for him, because he's been super competitive this afternoon in that Jordan. He's been troubling some of the Jaguars, and, well, he didn't really need that. Montoya pits, Button pits as well. They both came in on the same lap last time round as well. Third then Montoya at the time, and fifth Button before making these stops. There is Montoya. You'll notice, the eagle-eyed amongst you, that the nose of this Williams is different from previous Grand Prix. We had this rather ugly-looking walrus nose on the Williams. And, well, they've ditched that now, gone for a different solution. It's not necessarily quicker, but the teams say it will help to balance the car out better. Ferrari are ready for one of their two drivers. You can see at the top of the screen there, into the pits comes Rubens Barrichello. Let's see if this fuel hose works.
There's no problem getting it on so far, James. They are using, I do believe they are using Michael Schumacher's rig, though, just to make sure. That's a good stop. What is it, 7.5 seconds. And I'm just looking at Rubens as he passes by, and there's nothing coming out or anything like that. So it looks like they've probably fixed that by using Michael's rig.
Well, the mechanics are going to have to look sharp, because on the last round, Michael Schumacher pitted a lap after Rubens Barrichello, so if they follow the same procedure, they'll have to refuel that car, that Bowser, for Michael, and get all the tyres ready for the next stop. But pretty well organised outfit, Ferrari. I'm sure that they will have that well and truly under control. Barrichello rejoins then the Grand Prix, and well, such the margin of the Ferrari team that he doesn't have to worry too much about anyone behind him.
Pizzoni has moved himself into fourth place at this moment in time. Alonso in the top three again, so Schumacher leading. But Ferrari team, as you said, James, as Schumacher now comes into the pit, they've obviously turned that fuel around very quickly to make sure that everything's okay for him. It should be a nice clean stop again. Nothing to worry him whatsoever.
Okay, let's see how the experts do it then. Fuel hose goes on, tyres on almost in a blink of an eye. You could miss it. Beautiful rhythm to that stop, 7.8. And Schumacher comfortably on his way without any dramas at all. In fact, as I said before, it's a bit of a... can't remember the last time he had too many dramas. Austria, I think, last year, a little fire, didn't he? It didn't seem to bother him too much.
Yeah, the guy never seems to have any problems whatsoever.
So Schumacher rejoins in the lead. Barrichello there, you can see, in second place. That's the margin between them on the racetrack. They're just approaching half distance in this Hungarian Grand Prix. Alonso is third. Pizzoni yet to make his second stop of the afternoon, is in fourth place for Williams BMW. Trulli, Montoya and Button and Sato have all pitted. They are the top 8, with Coulthard in 9th place. It's the halfway stage of the Hungarian Grand Prix from Budapest. James Allen and Mark Blundell with you as Christian Klien in the Jaguar pits from 13th place. Michael Schumacher leads the Grand Prix by almost 10 seconds from Rubens Barrichello. Alonso is third, half a minute behind Barrichello, with Montoya 12 seconds behind Alonso. But then we've got Button and Sato and Pizzoni quite close together on the racetrack, with Trulli and Fisichella 8th and 9th. We've lost Zonta. I think we just saw a flash of him there. His car pulled over on the side of the track. Ricardo Zonta, who has replaced Cristiano De Matt, has been dumped by Toyota for this Grand Prix and for the rest of the season. And it looks as though Zonta's first Grand Prix race for Toyota has come to an abrupt stop in the first sector of this lap. And, well, one interesting thing that happened in that second round of pit stops is that Sato managed to get himself ahead of Jarno Trulli. Sato doing quite well after a very unfortunate start, which dropped him, he was third on the grid, dropped down to 10th, but he's back up into 6th place and fighting hard.
Well, Button in 5th place and Sato in 6th, which are the all-important point-scoring positions that BAR need. But interestingly for me, James, it's 31.4 seconds the gap between Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso, and you kind of get the impression that Michael would like to lap Alonso, like what we saw last year, but the other way around. And I'm sure that he's aiming to do that.
Well, that's a very good point. Certainly last year, Bridgestone tyres on the Ferrari were not the right thing to have here. And Alonso managed to lap Michael Schumacher, who finished down in 8th place, as Zsolt Baumgartner, the Hungarian driver, makes his second stop of the afternoon. But the circumstances were so special last year, weren't they? You had Webber at the front of the grid that held everybody back, do you remember, in the early part of the Grand Prix, and that allowed Alonso to make that break, to get a huge margin over everyone. Certainly Schumacher's margin over Alonso, 41.3 seconds. He'll need, he's going to need over 70, isn't he? 78, 79 seconds before he starts coming up behind him. But we're only at half distance, it's possible. He might well try and do it.
Well, his lap times look like he's going to try and do it. He keeps consistently putting his car into the 1 minute 20s. And at this moment in time, Rubens Barrichello's only circulating in a 1 minute 21. A high one at that, so the gap is possible there to be done.
Second the lap from now on would give him the opportunity to lap the man in third place, Fernando Alonso. That is something we will look out for. Tell you one thing that's interesting to me also, Mark, is that Alonso is going along quite well. 121.8, high 1 minute 21 laps anyway. Meanwhile, Jarno Trulli, the last few laps he's been lapping in the mid 1 minute 23s. Pitsonia has now passed him for 7th place. So I don't know if Trulli's off the boil or he's got a problem, but really ever since the team, he and the team had that rift, he's just not been firing on all cylinders, has he?
He doesn't seem to have been. He definitely seems to have been affected in some way, and you're right in saying that he is off the pace here. He's a second and a half off his teammate at this stage, being overtaken by Pitsonia. Yeah, that announcement came out from him and Renault about the future of the pairing. He's definitely put a damper on their performance so far.
29 seconds he is behind his teammate Fernando Alonso, who's on for a second podium in succession. And Renault in that battle, as I mentioned earlier, with BAR Honda for second in the constructors. They've only got a 9-point margin. Obviously Alonso, if he stays where he is today, is going to score 6 big points for them, but they've got Button and Sato in 5th and 6th for BAR, so they can't afford to drop too many points, Renault.
We're just watching Ricardo Zonta now returning back to the pits. He's slightly frustrated that he hasn't completed his Grand Prix distance, especially finishing the season off. Be nice to get that distance under his belt. But the other point there, we're just looking at the rear of Sato's car. You can see a little bit of discoloration there on that rear right tyre. And Antonio Pitsonia is pushing in some hard laps. He's only some 0.8 of a second now behind Sato in 6th place.
That'll be something. And Pitsonia catches up to the back of Sato. There you saw Pitsonia flashing through the frame. Very interesting, 2 hard charges. Pitsonia certainly on the move, as you say, looking for a second points finish in a row for Williams. It's unfortunate for him, he already knows he isn't going to occupy a Williams drive next year because subject to the contract recognition board, obviously Jenson Button on his way to BMW Williams next year to partner Mark Webber. So Pitsonia really driving as a showcase really for other teams, see if he can get someone interested in him. After last season, which didn't start very well with the Jaguar team, he was dropped after the British Grand Prix last year. Pretty ironic actually that the 2 Grand Prix he's got to deputise here for Ralf Schumacher this season are the 2 that he missed last year by being dropped before the German Grand Prix. Germany and Budapest then. He's almost completing the season he didn't finish last year.
A little bit of a concern for me looking at David Coulthard's lap time. He's down in the 1 minute 24s. I'm not sure whether that indicates a problem for him. Having known his teammates dropped out with mechanical problems, that would be clearly sitting in the back of his mind.
Well, we were talking about Jarno Trulli and his pace. Let's see if Ted Kravitz can explain why he's 2.5 seconds a lap slower than his teammate.
Well, Renault, I've been down to Renault. They can't explain why it's 2.5 seconds, but Trulli's handling has just gone completely out the window. It's understeer everywhere. Now, Fernando Alonso has radioed in and saying that he's got really bad graining on this set of tyres, and he's also got understeer, but Alonso's dealt with it a lot better than Trulli. Trulli's just gone right off pace, way down. Renault think that he's also got the graining and the understeer that Alonso's got as Trulli, and they're going to try and get him to do something in the car to cure it, maybe change a diff or something like that.
Well, just to explain what Ted means there with the term graining, it purely is small grains of rubber just washing itself across the face of the tyre, and that's just purely losing rubber off the tyre, making it less efficient, and the guys are struggling with that. And on the front tyres, when you've got that, you've got no grip, you can't turn the car in, you lose valuable tenths of a second on the corners.
Well, judging by that, Michael Schumacher is still pushing very, very hard. You see the way he went through that chicane there. Maybe he has set that target of lapping Alonso, particularly if he finds out that Alonso's got problems with his tyres. Certainly Schumacher pushing extremely hard. This is lap 40 then. He's leading Michael Schumacher by 12.5 seconds from Rubens Barrichello. Alonso is half a minute behind the second Ferrari. Montoya 4th, Button 5th, Sato 6th, Pitsonia 7th, and Trulli struggling a bit at the moment in 8th place. Lap 43 of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli has been getting slower and slower and slower. His lap time's dropped into the high 1:24s, which is, well, 3 seconds slower than teammate Alonso. Clearly some sort of problem with the set of tyres that he had on that stint. He's come in to change them. He's been lapped by Michael Schumacher, which is a sort of consolation for what happened last year to Schumacher. Lapped by Alonso, but Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, down at Renault, he tried changing it, Jarno did, from inside the car. There was nothing he could do. They had to bring him in to change those tyres because they were just completely gone. It was stupid keeping him out. So they came in, changed the tyres. It's well ahead of schedule, though.
When the tyre wear gets to that point where the car's got no grip, the risk is that you're going to run off the road or lose it, and the consequences are that it's the end of your race. So the sensible thing is what Jarno's done, pulled the car in. It's out of strategy, but he's got a fresh set of rubber on to get to work with.
So Schumacher leading the Grand Prix, Barrichello 2nd, Alonso 3rd, Montoya 4th, Button 5th, and Sato in 6th place. But the man on the move at the moment is, well, certainly Jenson Button, who took half a second out of Montoya on the last lap. Just over 3 seconds the margin between Montoya and Button, the man who will be replacing Montoya in the Williams next year. If the Contract Recognition Board agree with Frank Williams that there was a loophole in the way that BAR took up Jenson Button's option. Tremendous amount of talk about that this weekend. We've only got 3 retirements so far. We've heard from Felipe Massa and Kimi Räikkönen. Now Louise Goodman has tracked down Ricardo Zonta.
I have indeed, James. Ricardo, clearly not the return to Formula One that you were looking for. Problems really right from the first corner when you had that contact with Mark Webber.
Yeah, the start was quite good. I gained some positions, but on the end of the straight was a big, very tight, and one car touched my rear wheel and I spun. And so I lost completely many positions, and it was quite difficult to overtake the guys. But in the end, I lost completely the power. Something related to the electronics.
Better luck next time. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Jarno Trulli has retired from the Grand Prix from 12th place. We saw him making a stop, Mark. This is what happened.
He's coming around the last turn here. It looks like he's just puffing some smoke out the rear of the car. Just small hints of it. You can only put that down to a technical failure of engine related, or maybe possibly gearbox, but definitely it's the end of his day for sure.
Retirement number 6 of the season then for the Renault team, and I know reliability, one of the absolute keys for them to a successful season. 2nd at the moment in the World Championship, desperately keen to hold on to that. And well, they've got Fernando Alonso currently in 3rd place, on target for 6 World Championship points, but Button and Sato are 5th and 6th, who will nullify that. So the battle goes on between them to the flag, as Jarno Trulli, not a happy camper this last few months since he fell out with that man there, Flavio Briatore, the boss of the Renault team. Trulli's on his way at the end of the season, probably to Toyota. He hasn't signed his contract yet, but that's what we understand. Nice shot there, Baumgartner. That's what it feels like to be lapped. Not a nice feeling.
No, not a nice feeling, but when you've got Pablo Montoya breathing down your neck in a BMW Williams, there's not much you're going to do about it when you're sitting in the Minardi. Doesn't have the same levels of grip and power.
Must be very dispiriting for drivers. They win in the Junior Formula, they win a Formula 3 Championship or a Formula Renault Championship. They're just used to turning up and winning most weekends. Get into Formula 1, you might never win again. It can take years and years to even get on the podium, can't it?
There's definitely a downside, but of course everybody strives to get into Formula 1, and when you do get there, regardless of what car it is, you're quite happy with that. But once you're in, you've got to try and stay there and elevate yourself. And as we've seen, people like Mark Webber, who started Minardi, made good impressions. This gentleman here, Jenson Button, is making an impression. He's definitely making some inroads into Montoya. He's now down to 3.2 seconds behind Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah, it's another fighting drive by Jenson Button. 4th on the grid. Didn't have the best of starts. Dropped down. Now he's in 5th place at the moment. The speed differential on that overtaking move was absolutely staggering, wasn't it? I was going to say rapier-like, but after Baumgartner's training with the fencing team, that would be too unkind.
I'm just impressed with Jenson Button over the course of the weekend. I mean, he's turned up here, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Everybody's been asking him a million questions. and he's got his head down. He's just got to work, and he's turning in an impressive performance yet again. Definitely an old head on young shoulders.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, weren't we, Mark? I mean, the way so many distractions as a Grand Prix driver. You've got to be at a press conference, you've got to do marketing things, go and talk to sponsors, guests. You've got a weekend like this as Jarno Trulli walks in. You've got everybody and his wife wanting to talk to you about your controversial move to Williams. As a sportsman, how do you just completely blank everything out?
I think in some respects Formula One drivers are quite unique, because if you analyse it, there's not many sports that you're actually put under the microscope that much when you're in your event. You wouldn't see somebody being interviewed just before they go off at the 100-metre hurdles, for instance. But these guys, 2 minutes before they're in a race car to start the race, they've got a microphone underneath them, giving them a view of what they're about to do. So very, very special people indeed, but they can shut things off and focus.
So let's enjoy Jenson Button's style. You can see he doesn't like to hit the curbs too much. One of the smoother drivers in Formula One, certainly more Prost than Villeneuve, you would say. And well, it's been a very effective technique, hasn't it? 7 podiums so far this season with the BAR Honda team. And as Mark was saying, very much the man everyone's talking about. One of the interesting things about his move to Williams is that, provided that the Contract Recognition Board do find that he's eligible to go to Williams, is that he won't actually be able to test the car until after Christmas, and that will hand a bit of an advantage to Mark Webber, won't it, who will presumably be driving the car as soon as the November testing break is concluded.
Well, we'd think that would be the case. Again, it would be providing that Jaguar's contract ends so that he can go on to do that. But yeah, it will have some advantage there for Mark Webber to get early mileage under the belt with the Williams car. But you know, I don't think it takes too long for Jenson Button to catch up.
I'm sure it won't, but it'll mean that Webber's got his feet under the table first, and sometimes that kind of thing does count for a lot. Expecting a terrific rivalry between those two. Personally, I think they're very well matched, and I can imagine them staying together for quite a long time at the heart of that Williams team, as Pitsonia there puts a lap on the Minardi. He is currently in 7th place, Antonio Pitsonia. No change in the order at the top of this Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher 15 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Alonso still that half minute behind, but Schumacher still pushing very hard. 45 seconds now the gap between himself and Alonso. Montoya 4th and Button 5th. Jarno Trulli we saw retiring a few minutes ago after going rather slowly. He's talking now to Louise Goodman.
Yeah, very disappointed, Jarno Trulli. I've just seen you having a long chat with Alan Permain, your engineer. Have you worked out what went wrong?
Well, at the end I had an engine failure, but I was gradually looking pretty bad and slowing down. It's a shame because at the beginning I had a very good start. I was held up by Jenson. I was much quicker than him, but I couldn't get him past. And then in the end I just lost the engine.
You'd made a stop just before that. Were you having some problems with your tyres?
Yeah, I was having problem. At one stage I was very, very slow suddenly, and we don't understand why. I lost about 1-2 seconds, and then the engine gone.
Thanks, Jarno.
Well, while we were listening to Jarno, we saw Mark Webber making way for Montoya, who is putting a lap on him. Webber on his way to Williams next year. He can't wait for the opportunity to be driving that car. Webber lost a lot of ground with a spin when he was tackling David Coulthard in the battle for 10th and 11th place earlier on. So that's what caused Webber to lose so much ground. And also Takuma Sato pitting from 6th place as Ferrari get some more tyres ready for the two drivers who are in control very much of this Grand Prix and well on their way to clinching a 6th consecutive Constructors' World Championship. Never been done before.
David Coulthard still having a slight struggle there with the harder tyre compound, what they chose with the McLaren. He's still lapping in the 1 minute 21s, mid 21s at that, and most of the guys now, it seems a little bit of a drop in the track temperature and the ambient, just clocking up 1 minute 20s. Jenson Button definitely is making a move now. 3.3 seconds from Juan Pablo Montoya in 4th and 5th place.
Well, one of the leading Formula One magazines is carrying out a poll at the moment, which of Michael Schumacher's 80-plus Grand Prix victories is his greatest. The top 10 they're looking for. And I think you'd have to say this has certainly been one of the most dominant, but not necessarily one of the most difficult for him to achieve. He's pushed very, very hard in this Grand Prix. There have been others who have been much more hard-won. Ross Brawn said to me when we were doing that interview before the Manucourt race over in Maranello, Schumacher will always win a race for you that you should win, and he'll often win a race for you that you shouldn't win. And that is why he's the best, and that, as Ross said, is why I stick very, very close to him.
I think there's a difference between a good driver and a great driver, but I don't think there'd be anybody down the pit lane who would refuse the services of Michael Schumacher. But as we know it, he's going to be at Ferrari for the next few years to come.
Yeah, sure to end his career with the Ferrari team. Absolutely no reason to go anywhere else. There, the sole remaining Renault then, Fernando Alonso in third place, maintaining a very, very good pace indeed. He's just set his fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, with 21 of the 70 laps still to go. And that was a 1:20.2 for Alonso, so he's getting on with it in the Renault. Meanwhile, Montoya, who's 14 seconds behind him, he also has just set his fastest race lap half a second slower than the Renault. So that gives you an idea of the difference today on this track between Renault and Williams. It's about half a second, the difference. You can see Ferrari getting ready for a stop. Jenson Button there, leaving the pits on his final stop. That's his third stop of the afternoon, and he was in 5th place before he made that stop.
And Rubens Barrichello comes into the pits now for his third stop of the race. Very good stop again by the Ferrari team, 7.3 seconds. It really is clockwork when you watch these guys perform.
Yeah, I think there's one or two people in Formula One who wish it wasn't quite so clockwork sometimes. Pit stop's one of the things that can just add a note of chaos and what have you to a Grand Prix, just shake up the order a little bit, but certainly no problems so far. Jordan had a little problem earlier on, getting a Heidfeld's front right on, but no problems for his teammate Pantano there, pitting from 14th in this Grand Prix, and that's allowed Christian Klien to get past him.
We got news from our ITV pit crew, say that Jenson Button put some scrub tyres on his third stop there, and the possible reasoning for that is that those tyres have all been used over the course of the weekend, and what we would term as being cured. They've had a race run, got up to temperature, dropped back off again, and that sometimes alleviates the graining problem. So maybe they've been seeing some heavy graining on those Michelins as well.
Well, Pitsonia there, you can see in the Williams pitting in front of Michael Schumacher. Pitsonia had been given a wave blue flag to let Schumacher, the race leader, through. And it looks like, well, although Pitsonia came into the pits first, Schumacher is leaving them first. And that avoids the problem of Pitsonia having to get out of his way. Pitsonia then goes a lap down, but he's still in 5th in this Grand Prix. He's dropped down, there's Button, you can see. Is that Button or Sato? Certainly the two of them are circulating out there at the moment. And Pitsonia, as Pantano, having just made a pit stop, pulls off to the side of the track. We often see that, don't we, that the car's stationary towards the end of a Grand Prix for a while in the pits, and it goes out, and soon after it all goes wrong. Alonso in the pits.
Pantano just watching there on the slow motion, just coming to a rest. And Alonso in the pits here for his last stop. Again, good stop again, 7.1 seconds. Looks like he'll continue onto the podium by the look of things with his current pace.
Well, that's allowed Juan Montoya to go through into 3rd place. Rather tantalising for Montoya, the thought of a podium here in Hungary, but of course he has still got to make his 3rd and final stop of the afternoon, and when he does, that'll hand the 3rd place back to Fernando Alonso. And to be fair, Montoya's never really looked like challenging Alonso all afternoon. There's Mark Webber. He's up to speed on his tyres. Alonso still getting up to speed on his after that recent pit stop. Webber ruining the mistake, the spin that dropped him off the back of Coulthard while they were battling for 10th place. Coulthard at the moment then up in 8th place in the McLaren. And we're hearing from our F1 ITV pit crew that Giorgio Pantano, who we saw retiring just a moment ago, had some gearbox problems. That's why he pulled out of the Grand Prix. Williams ready for Montoya. Trulli, Zonta, Massa, Raikkonen and Pantano have all retired from this race. We've got 15 cars still running. And Michael Schumacher is going very strongly in the lead. Ted Kravitz.
Here comes Juan Montoya. The tyres have been in the pit lane for an awful long time, more than a lap, I've got to say, and he should have a good gap over Jenson Button. It was 6 seconds, but he's very slow getting away. Where's that going to come on? He should still clear Button easily. Meantime, DC is coming in next lap.
Well, Montoya comes out onto the track and there's no sign of any of his rivals anywhere to be seen there. You can see the first BAR coming up and over the horizon. It is indeed Jenson Button, and as Ted said, comfortably out in front of the Englishman. That's the picture then, after 54 laps here at the Hungaroring. Button still in 5th place. He'll be annoyed with that, having started 4th on the grid. David Coulthard, the other Brit, man hoping to take that seat at BAR Honda next year, pits from 8th place. That'll let Fisichella back through. It's the final points-paying position here.
It's quite possible for DC as well that the team may have informed him because of the problems with Raikkonen's car, just to maybe back off slightly if there's any reliability issues. May be a connection there, they may want him just to make it so he gets to the end of the race. But at this point in time, he's still circulating in the 1-minute 22s.
Well, there's been an awful lot of talk this weekend about the new rules package for 2005. Meetings of the technical working group of technical directors, trying to hammer out the details of what the chassis design could be for next year, the engine rules and the tyre rules as well. Team principals as well, getting together regularly to try and work out what they're going to do as Pitsonia puts a lap on the Minardi. And at the moment, although they're heading towards a solution, they still haven't got a solution. And here we are towards the end of August with designers still not really knowing exactly what rules to design their cars to next year. Looks like the nose is going to get raised up to reduce the downforce. They're going to get rid of the diffuser underneath the rear of the car. It cuts a lot of downforce as well. Looking at engines which possibly last 2 Grand Prix weekends instead of just the 1 at the moment, and possibly looking at having only 2 sets of tyres across, well, 3 sets of tyres across the whole weekend, but only 1 set you can use for qualifying and the race. That's something I personally wouldn't really want to see, Mark, because I don't think, I mean, there's a lot of other junior Formula who have far more sets of tyres than Formula 1. It would make Formula 1 look a bit silly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm with you with that, James. But I do sense there's a lot of frustration down the pit lane, a lot of uneasiness in not knowing where the future and the direction of Formula 1 is. At this point in time, Balgunter comes into the pits for his last stop. And 7.4 seconds, not a bad stop there for Minardi, but unfortunately he's not got a lot to do.
One suggestion I did like the idea of, obviously we don't know what the qualifying rules are going to be yet, but one suggestion I've heard Ross Brawn put forward on Friday is to have qualifying whereby you have an hour, and after the first 15 minutes you lose the slowest 5 cars, and after the next 15 minutes you lose the next slowest 5 cars as Pitsonia goes off the racetrack. And certainly that suggestion of Brawn's has attracted a lot of attention, so we'll see if that one gets any wings, whether the qualifying system will change for Formula 1 for next year. Another quick look at what happened there.
Well, you can see what happened there is Antonio Pizzoni has gone to marbles. That extra rubber there, what's been thrown off to the outside of the corner. As soon as you get onto that, you've got no grip whatsoever. Pick it up on your race tyres. Got to try and clean it all off now. And that's probably because he was pushing very hard to try and get onto the back of Takuma Sato. He was only 9/10 of a second away from him, but that's been enlarged now to 2.6 seconds after that off.
Pitsonia holds on then to 7th place. Fisichella 23 seconds behind him, no particular threat in 8th place. Schumacher leading Barrichello by 18.5 seconds. Alonso 3rd, Montoya 4th, Button 5th, Sato 6th, Pitsonia 7th. That order has not changed for quite a long time, and we've got 15 laps to go here at the Hungaroring. Just 13 to go here at the Hungaroring. James Allen and Mark Blundell with you this afternoon. Michael Schumacher leading the Grand Prix, started on pole position, has been completely untroubled all afternoon. Rubens Barrichello in 2nd place, that's where he started on the grid. He's 17 seconds behind the race leader. In 3rd place at the moment, Fernando Alonso, who started 5th on the grid. He made those places up at the start and hasn't lost them since. Juan Montoya, he started 7th on the grid. He too made up the places at the start. He's in 4th place. Jenson Button, well, he started 4th on the grid but dropped down into 5th, and that's where he stayed for the rest of the Grand Prix. Takuma Sato, he's had an eventful afternoon. He started 3rd, dropped down to 8th at the end of the first lap, and has managed to fight his way back up into 6th, but really can go no further. He's not really quite as quick across the Grand Prix as teammate Button, and he's 16 seconds behind him in 6th place. Pitsonia, well, he's had an eventful afternoon as well. Started 6th on the grid, dropped down to 9th as a result of the first lap, and then has managed to fight his way back up into 6th place. And Giancarlo Fisichella, there he is in the Sauber, started 8th, and he's going to finish 8th. as things stand at the moment.
Yeah, Fisichella, I still feel he should be a little bit faster with the Bridgestones. As you see, the pace there with the Ferraris is significantly quicker than anybody else. And I kind of expected he'd be moving into that top 6, elevating himself into the higher points. But 8th place, still 1 point for his efforts. And Sauber will be very grateful for that at this moment in time.
Well, I mentioned at the beginning the battle between Renault and BAR in the Constructors' Championship. As Panis goes past the Minardi of Zolt Baumgartner. We've seen an awful lot of him this afternoon, mostly in rather unflattering shots of him being overtaken at enormous speed by faster cars. But I mentioned that situation, the scrap between Renault and BAR. Currently 9 points then, the margin between Renault in 2nd place and BAR 3rd. As things stand at the moment, Alonso 3rd, he's going to pick up 6 points for that, but Button and Sato 5th and 6th, and that's going to give them 7 points, so they close the gap down by 1 to just 8, with another 5 Grand Prix to go. And with Jarno Trulli not seeming to be quite on it at the moment, that's quite an interesting scrap to watch for the rest of the season, I think. I can see BAR nicking 2nd if Renault aren't very careful here.
Well, that would be a magnificent feat for BAR if they could do that. Still a young team, 1999 they kicked off. But they've got 2 guys there that need to keep scoring points. Jenson Button has scored the majority of those points this season. Sato looks like he's going to be contributing today. And as you say, James, if Jarno Trulli is not that happy with the remainder of his season, doesn't keep the point scoring consistently for Renault, BAR could take the 2nd place laurels.
We are riding on board with Jenson Button, who has managed to put away and put behind him all the attention caused by his move to Williams for next year. Driven very well here this weekend. Out-qualified by teammate Sato for the 5th time this season. But on race day, when it really counts, it's been Button who's had the upper hand. Currently 5th with Sato in 6th place. As we'll look at the Ferrari, and certainly Michael Schumacher saying the other day that 4-day test mark that they did in Jerez in Spain, huge track temperatures, well over 40 degrees down there. And Bridgestone brought along a bunch of compounds of tyres after the humiliations of last year in the hot Grand Prix of the summer. They didn't want it to happen again. Ross Brawn has time for his customary mid-race banana, and he knows what we're talking about him. He knows that all the commentators are talking about the banana shot. And, well, that test certainly seems to have done an awful lot of good to come up with good hot weather tyre compounds. And Ferrari in Hockenheim 3 weeks ago, and here again in Hungary, will have the upper hand with the hot compounds. As Ross takes another bite, Giorgio Pantano retired from the Grand Prix, and Louise Goodman's caught up with him.
Giorgio, we're hearing from the team some kind of gearbox problem. What can you tell me?
I mean, it was a few laps I hear that problem. I think after 20 laps I start to feel that problem because I have also a few outie. That is causing because when I went on downshift I have the rear locking, and
but ultimately
in the end it's just broken. I have to stop.
Bad luck.
Thanks.
Well, if you're going to continue around a Grand Prix lap, you're going to need gears in the gearbox. And it's going to be quite difficult for Giorgio Pantano to contain that. Dropping down the gears in the rear are locking up. A significant spin in one occasion if it happens, but it seems like the gearbox has failed before him anyway.
Well, certainly one of the reasons why Ross Brawn is looking so relaxed up on that pit wall. Not only is his cars 1 and 2 in this Grand Prix, but they've stopped development on this car now for the rest of the season. They've got such a margin they can focus on 2005. As I was saying before, the technical regulations for 2005 are still up in the air, but it does seem to be heading in one direction. I mentioned before, and certainly Ferrari throwing a lot of effort and resources at that to try and maintain their advantage. Alonso, look at the bounce on the front right wheel there of that Renault.
They're just lifting up the right inside wheel as he put the load on the car like a tricycle. It's not unusual to see that. What you say about Ross Brawn being relaxed, I think Michael Schumacher's been relaxed as well, James. He's now knocking back in the mid-1 minute 21s. He knows there's not a lot to worry about. Some 50 seconds in front of Fernando Alonso.
Well, Alonso certainly was pushing very hard, doing personal best laps one after the other. Seems to have just eased off a little bit now. His lap time's going back into the high 1 minute 21s, but really the pace of Ferrari this afternoon, I think, has blown everybody away. That fastest lap of Michael Schumacher's almost a 1:19 flat. I mean, that's 2.5 seconds faster than last year's pole time, and that's a remarkable lap.
Yeah, definitely huge steps and a massive improvement in lap time on a very small circuit in many respects. Fastest man at the moment is actually Rubens Barrichello, who's doing a 1:20.5. He's taken a couple of seconds out of his teammate in the lead there, but I think it's all a bit too late for Rubens.
Bit of monkey business there in the Ferrari garage. Not been a thrilling Grand Prix, this one. The highlight, arguably, Ross Brawn eating the banana, but with 8 to go out of the 70, Schumacher on his serene way. 14 seconds ahead of Barrichello, and probably as you said, Mark, allowing him to close the gap now. I think tomorrow they would love the Italian newspapers on the anniversary this weekend of the death of Enzo Ferrari to have a formation finish. Two Ferraris, 1 and 2 in Budapest for that record 14th constructors, 6th in a row.
Yeah, well, I think at this moment in time, Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari team, they don't need to worry about reading history books. I think they're writing the history books, and I cannot see for the life of me, the next 10, 20 years, anybody repeating this kind of performance. It really is incredible.
It's built on consistency and personnel, tremendous stability. They've been together for a long time, the men at the top. They like to set the example for the rest of the workforce. Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Jean Todt, Paolo Martinelli, the engine builder. There they are, up on the wall. Todd and Brawn, they have a stranglehold on Formula One at the moment. There's been instability at McLaren, there's been instability at Williams, changes of personnel, movements, drivers in and out. Ferrari have just kept it all right at the very highest level. They all have a mentality. None of them wants to let the other one down. They push each other very hard. They win together, they lose together, and no one else can beat them.
Well, the worry for that, James, is it's all staying the same for next year as well. So that continuation looks like it's going to be there, and all the other people in the pit lane need to really up their game. Michael Schumacher still circulating the 1:21s. Rubens Barrichello in the low 1:20s. He's now closed the gap down to 12.9 seconds. As you say, James, we could be on for the 1-2 finish, the photo shot, as they call it.
Well, the only little moment of drama for Ferrari was that refueling hose, which seemed to have had some kind of problem at Rubens Barrichello's first stop, but ultimately, although there was an awful lot of work going on there in the Ferrari garage, it had no effect on the race of either Schumacher or Barrichello, both of whom were untroubled by any kind of pit stop dramas. Now, down there in the Ferrari garage is Ted Kravitz, and, well, we've seen a bit of monkey business with the mechanics. They're obviously feeling pretty relaxed, Ted.
It's a state of nervous apprehension down here, James, right in the heart of the Ferrari garage. Test driver Luca Badoa is just sort of stalking around, giving small sort of half smiles to all the mechanics. They're not smiling back yet. They know there are still a few more laps, 6 laps to go in this race. Just to update you on that fuel rig, they did take it apart. They found something, they mended it, but by then they were all using the same rig, which acted, as the rest of the team did, completely faultlessly.
Well, we've had an email through the F1 ITV studio from Andy in Congleton. Didn't give us a surname, saying how many more points does Michael Schumacher need now to secure his 7th world crown? Well, certainly the way he's going today, he's going to take another 2 points out of Rubens Barrichello. 10 points for Schumacher, 2 for Barrichello. This will almost certainly mean he could do it in Spa, but it's more likely to be Monza, Andy, that Michael Schumacher wins his 7th World Championship.
The appropriate Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari, and Michael pulls it off there. But, yep, definitely on the cards. David Coulthard there, having a bit of a struggle today, and I think DC's doing as good a job as possible inside the cockpit of that car, gritting his teeth and driving there what's underneath him, which at this point doesn't look like the performance we've seen of McLaren over the last couple of Grand Prix. They definitely did step up to the plate with that B version car, but this weekend hasn't shown any promise.
Yeah, Coulthard trying to do something about Fisichella, but 3.1 seconds the gap between them, and he's also got a Jordan he needs to lap, and that's the tantalising prospect. That's how far he is off a World Championship point, David Coulthard, and I think he'll be disappointed with that. The poor tyre choice made by McLaren, as you say, Mark, going into the qualifying session really hurt them, and after a couple of Grand Prix of real momentum for McLaren, Silverstone and Hockenheim, it's a step backwards here in Budapest. Blue wave flags there for the Jordan, meaning he's got to get out of the way, otherwise face a drive-through penalty. And, well, the standard now of driving is certainly a lot higher than it used to be in terms of letting lap traffic through, but Coulthard's actually not that close to the back of the Jordan. Getting blue flags, but he's not really close enough to take advantage of them.
I think he's going to be breathing down the neck of the Jordan very soon, as we see now. Look, there you go, the Jordan pulls over, lets him go by, which is probably only fair in the scheme of things. DC is in his own race, in contention for a World Championship point, and the Jordan clearly isn't.
So let's just recap on what's happened here at Budapest. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello led away at the start from Fernando Alonso, who had a terrific getaway in the Renault from 5th on the grid, scythed his way through the 2 BARs on the second row and took up 3rd place. Kimi Raikkonen, an early retirement from 7th place with an engine failure. And there was some concern about the fuel rig of Rubens Barrichello, but at the end it turned out to be no big drama. Behind Alonso, Montoya, Button and Sato very closely matched. Jarno Trulli couldn't match the pace all afternoon of teammate Fernando Alonso, and eventually retired with an engine failure in the Renault. Schumacher at one point pulled out over 20-second gap over Rubens Barrichello at the time of the 3rd round of pit stops, but then more recently he a little bit to allow Barrichello to get a bit closer, although Barrichello's still 13 seconds behind his team leader. And Alonso, well, he's been over half a minute behind the second Ferrari for some time. So the start, in the end, absolutely critical here at the Hungaroring, and the positions haven't really changed, apart from Sato and Pitsonia, who dropped down out of the fringes of the top 10 and managed to fight their way back up to 6th and 7th. But certainly the front 5, their positions haven't changed since the start.
No, they haven't, and I think the guy for me at the beginning of the race there who made the big impression was Alonso, making that incredible start. Paid off for him, getting into the first corner there. He stayed in 3rd place for the duration of the race, and it just makes the underlining statement that if you can get off the grid cleanly and get there into turn 1 before most of the other guys, you've got a good chance of staying.
Yeah, certainly one or two of the other technical directors, as we look at Juan Montoya there coming through the final corner, currently in 4th place. One or two of the other technical directors suggesting that Renault actually built really around the whole concept of starts, the engine, the clutch, the electronics, the whole way the chassis is designed, the weight distribution. Obviously they want it to be quick across qualifying and quick across the race, but the start, they've identified the start as a crucial moment of a Grand Prix, and they've made this a really good starting car. What are we putting out here? Number 6, is that going to be? Well, 6 in a row. Number 14, total Constructors' Championships. What are they playing around with here?
Quite possibly could be a fuel number, just or number 1. Yeah, well, we know that.
It's a bit like Countdown, really, isn't it?
Karel Vorderman would be proud of it, but yeah, well, number 1. You're quite right.
Well, there's still 2 laps to go here, and that's I'm not sure about that. A little bit too much hubris for me. Let's wait until the race is finished, shall we? Don't rub it in, boys. Certainly Schumacher, undisputed number 1 in the world on lap 69 out of 70, 11.5 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Alonso 3rd, Montoya still 4th, Barrichello 5th, Sato 6th, Pitsonia 7th, Fisichella 8th. Well, the computers say that there is another lap to go. The Ferrari mechanics seem to be thinking it's either all over or they just want to cheer him on to the beginning of his last lap. There he goes through the frame. And he's pushed pretty hard all afternoon, Michael Schumacher. Only now does he really back off into the 1:23. He's the sort of lap times that the midfielders have been doing all afternoon, and this is him on the slowdown, because his pace this afternoon, particularly in the middle part of the Grand Prix where he was getting into the low 1:19s, has been absolutely sensational. It sent a big message out to all the other teams, as if they needed reminding just how much work they have to do to get on terms with this team, who have won the Constructors' World Championship now for 6 years in a row. Totally dominated Grand Prix racing. And what have the others got to do to get close to them?
Well, I don't think anybody knows at this point in time. But you're going to have to get up pretty early in the morning to beat Michael Schumacher, because the guy is unstoppable, along with the Ferrari team.
Yep, just like Lance Armstrong, nicknamed the Cannibal. They're also starting, the Italian papers are starting to nickname Schumacher the Cannibal as well, because he eats the other drivers alive. Is he looking in his mirrors to see where Barrichello is? Doesn't look like we're going to get a formation finish. Barrichello just behind those other cars. Doesn't want any messy BARs in the photo for tomorrow, because Michael Schumacher comes out of the final corner and he wins the Hungarian Grand Prix and brings Ferrari that much cherished Constructors' World Championship on the anniversary of the death of Enzo Ferrari. What a place, what a time to do it, to go to Monza in a 2 races time as champion. There they are side by side, a wonderful 1-2 for Ferrari. Schumacher's 82nd career victory, and perhaps the most significant thing of all, he has now won 12 Grand Prix in a single season and pushed his own record even further out of reach of anybody else. Records tumbling then here at Budapest. Alonso coming through for another podium, his 2nd in a row after that wonderful one at Hockenheim 3 weeks ago. Terrific drive by Fernando Alonso, and then we wait for Montoya and Button to come through 4th and 5th. And Mark Blundell, your driver of the day.
For me, there can only be one guy, and that's the guy who's just won this race, Michael Schumacher. Copybook race. I think hats off to Alonso. I think he's done an outstanding job. His start was superb. Put himself into the podium position from the off and stayed there. But Michael Schumacher, there's nothing you can say about the guy anymore. There's no other words in the dictionary for it.
Well, he's enjoying his moment. Button, Sato, Pizzonia all coming through. Pizzonia 2 more points for him. His 2nd Grand Prix behind the wheel of a Williams. Another good effort for him, matching the result he got in Hockenheim 3 weeks ago. And that is the story that says it all. The world number 1, Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. And no doubt the podium in a few moments will be a very joyous occasion. Their 6th in a row. They kind of expected it here this weekend, and it's a sweet moment for them. After Schumacher was lapped here 12 months ago, they really have put the memory of that well and truly behind them. Schumacher now 120 points in the World Championship, 12 Grand Prix victories in a season. That's never been done before. Rubens Barrichello has 82 points, so 38 points the margin with 5 Grand Prix to go. As I was saying, the likely scenario, unless anything happens to Rubens Barrichello in Spa, is that Monza will be the place, and what a place for Schumacher to wrap up his 7th Drivers' World title. A word for Alonso, Montoya, Button. Really, as we said before, it was all about the start. Neither Ferrari had a problem, but Alonso made a wonderful start to get in front of the 2 BARs into the first corner, and others dropped behind. And none of them could do anything about this team. A remarkable afternoon if you're a Ferrari fan, and I know there are many of them in the UK and around the world enjoying watching these Grand Prix with us. And I'm sure you've got your red flags flying at home. And if you're not a fan of Ferrari, I suggest you write to the team you are a fan of and suggest that they get a move on and make a faster car, because at the moment they're nowhere near.
The great thing about Ferrari as well, James, is when they do win a race, they enjoy it. You can see the Italian passion running through the veins of most of the people there, even though they're from all corners of the world. But they certainly do know how to enjoy themselves after pulling off another event win. And it really is teamwork to its highest standards.
Certainly is. Just looking there at Barrichello. Not really on the pace of teammate Michael Schumacher all weekend here, except in that pre-qualifying session yesterday afternoon, where he banged in a wonderful time on those soft Bridgestone tyres. It did suggest that he might challenge Schumacher for the pole position, but he wasn't able to. And really the story from there on was Schumacher's race. for the taking. This then, the 600 Grand Prix for Ferrari. So they're celebrating 700, by far the most races anyone's taken part in, at Spa in 2 weeks' time. And I think the next 2 Grand Prix are going to be all about celebrations of all sorts for Ferrari. Certainly this one is. "90 strong they come to a Grand Prix. Mechanics, caterers, racing drivers, team principals. They come to win, and win they have done big." There are children all over the world who probably think the German national anthem has 2 parts, a slow dirgy bit and then a jolly bit at the end. So often have we heard those 2 anthems together. Schumacher picks up the 12th trophy of the year. How many more will he win? That's the question. Belgium, Italy, China, Japan, Brazil, all still to come. And with the exception of China, where we've never been before, all tracks that have fallen many times to Schumacher. Jean Todt, now boss of the whole Ferrari operation, not just the racing team, picks up the symbolic trophy, the winner of the Constructors' win for here, but of course for him, the World Championship. Rubens Barrichello in second.
Yeah, Jean Todt there, the conductor of the orchestra. He's definitely done a fantastic job. And as you say, James, now taken on a much bigger role in the organisation. But Michael Schumacher, what a guy. Yeah. Fernando Alonso, this is definitely a guy I think, if given the equipment, could compete against him, but I don't think we'll see that for a period of time.
So the 8th 1-2 finish of the season for Ferrari gives them that Constructors' Championship. Schumacher takes his record 12th win in a season. Coming to Budapest this weekend, all the talk was of Jenson Button leaving BAR, but the real story in Formula One is that these guys are unstoppable.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Mark. Michael Schumacher's been rock climbing in the break. For the rest, it's like trying to climb the north face of the Eiger every racing weekend. Now we've worked it out. If he wins in Spa, he is the world champion yet again. We'll be back talking to the drivers. There's Tony Jardine's analysis. It's another one for the record breaker. This weekend in Hungary, it is another Constructors' title for Messrs Michael Schumacher and Jean Todt. In a couple of weeks' time in Spa, they look to be on course for yet another World Championship. Confirmation that Michael Schumacher has won here in Hungary, 10 out of 10. Apart from that touch of tunnel vision in Monaco, he's won the lot. Barrichello following in for a Ferrari 1-2. Alonso, last year's runaway winner, 3rd. Montoya 4th in the Williams. Button, brave performance from Button in the BAR, and those 3 the only non-Ferrari runners not to be lapped Sato needed those points, making his claim for a permanent seat at BAR next season. Good effort from Pitsonia, a couple of points for Williams, and Giancarlo Fisichella, moving from Sauber at the end of the year, makes his point above David Coulthard. 120, Michael Schumacher, 12 wins, record. Rubens Barrichello, 82, looking cemented for the runners-up spot. Jenson Button, 65 points. He looks very good for third. What a good struggle going on between Jarno Trulli on his way out of the door at Renault at the end of the season and Fernando Alonso. Just a point dividing those Renault drivers. Montoya, 38 points in the Williams, then Coulthard and Raikkonen, just a point between them in McLaren. And Takuma Sato level with Kimi Raikkonen on 18 points now for the Japanese driver. 202 plays 91 for Ferrari, winning the Constructors' title. Again, Renault 91. BAR still fancy that runners-up spot, and what is it? It's an 8-point gap. They've closed it slightly. Williams 54, looking good for fourth, and McLaren 37, Sauber 19, and at the bottom it's Toyota 8, Jaguar 7, Jordan 5, and Minardi just the single point.
Well, Ross, congratulations. The pit board they were spelling out said world number 1, and another time, yet again, you are.
Yeah, as always, it takes a while to sink in, but it's been a fantastic year, and 1-2 at Hungary after what we did last year. I'm so proud of it that everyone's just done a fantastic job this year, and it's just an amazing group of people who support each other, work with each other, have the same objectives and get on with it, and it's something I've never experienced before, and we're seeing the results.
I mean, Michael, again, winning his, what must be, gazillionth Grand Prix. I do sense, though, a sense of admiration rather than resentment amongst the rest of the Formula One paddock about the job you're doing.
Finally. I hope so. I mean, I know when McLaren were winning, Williams were winning, I always respected the job they were doing and tried to beat them. And it's a little unusual for us to have kept this group of people together for so long, because normally after a while someone gets tempted to go elsewhere or splits off. And got a big challenge next year with a change of regulations, because that'll shake things up. But we've got the same group of people, and I hope we can continue. But it was great to do it a 1-2 today, and the tyres were fantastic. And every part of the group, Bridgestone, Shell, all our partners, they're all contributing at the maximum, and that's what makes the difference.
It almost had a twist in the tail, didn't it? What happened with the rig and the small fuel leak?
I don't know. Nigel's got to investigate, but there's a breakaway coupling, like a frangible coupling, that cracked, and we're not sure what happened. They changed both of them, I think, to be cautious. So that created a little bit of panic. If we'd had a safety car at that stage, we couldn't have refueled the cars, so they were a little bit anxious. But we didn't tell the drivers, we just kept quiet. And as always, the group of people involved fixed it efficiently, quietly, and did a great job.
Well, congratulations. I can sense that when this does sink in, you'll have the biggest smile as you've got on your face now.
Thanks, Ted.
It's worthwhile just emphasising, Tony, the Drivers' Championship gets the bulk of the publicity. Round here, that Constructors' title's everything.
Of course it is. Manufacturers such as Renault and such as Ferrari, they want to be able to put the badge on the side of their production car that says World Formula One Constructors. That's a big badge, a big star to have up on your car. But for the rest of us, it's the Drivers' Championship, which is the most important.
Let's chat to the drivers now in the press conference.
The superlatives are running out here. You're the first man ever to have won 12 races in one season, and in so doing, you've helped to clinch the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari.
I think the later one is the more important one we should talk about, and to win in the style we have done after the way we, in a way, have lost last year is something which shows why we're winning the Constructor Championship so early, because everybody is just so great and deserves this win. And after even a superb start of the season, everybody still kept going, and we had this very important test in Jerez where Bridgestone, ourselves, our partners, Shell, came up with new solutions, and they worked very well for us in Hockenheim in particular here. And that's the result. That's why we're there, and we have been able to turn around from last year to that great result.
Well, it's your second Grand Slam of the year. Started from the pole, led every lap, set fastest lap. Your thoughts on the race today? From the outside, I have to say it looked easy.
It's probably the way what it looks from the outside, but as the circuit is quite demanding, it's not so easy. The easy part started after the last pit stop when I had a safe margin. Then I sort of was driving safely. But before that, I was pushing, and Rubens was pushing me as well. That was driving to the limit. And I have to say that the car does perform very well. I mean, it drives around this difficult circuit superbly well, and that's why it maybe looks so good. But inside is a little bit more work than very often it looks outside.
Not much overtaking from a racing point of view, but a lot of overtaking in terms of the number of cars on the track today that you lapped.
Yeah, a lot of lapping was going on. Unfortunately, a couple of guys didn't seem to respect very well the blue flags, but honestly, it's difficult here in Hungary to find the right spot to move over. But the point is that Hungary anyway is a circuit where it is difficult to pass unless a much faster car is coming from the back and then can work its way through, as my brother did last year. You can't really expect overtaking, and that was the case this year.
Congratulations. Rubens, a good start. A lot of defence there going into the first corner too, obviously from Fernando. Also Juan Pablo Montoya quite near you.
It was actually difficult to see everything was going on behind me. I actually had a good start, and I think that's part of the ring yesterday that cleaned a little bit of our side. So I had a good one. Just was following Michael. It was difficult to know where Michael was going to brake, and because I had to defend myself and even try to overtake him if I could. And but it worked okay. I didn't have a chance to go for an overtake maneuver on Michael, but I had the chance to keep my position, because that was also the main thing. Otherwise, it could have damaged my race. So it was really good. And then after that, it was just running our own pace.
How did the car react to the various sets of tyres? Was the balance more or less the same throughout the race?
Well, I had a small problem on my third set, where I had a bit of grainy, and it wasn't going away. The first, the second, and the fourth were very, very much perfect. I had a great time. Unfortunately, I couldn't run Michael's pace. He was on his own. I pushed him a little bit when he was about 9 seconds. We were running the same pace. Maybe I was fractionally faster at that time, but the third set was just too slow, and the fourth set, it was finished the race anyway. But the car was back to very, very good behaving.
Nonetheless, a very dominant 1-2 for Ferrari. Now switching to Fernando, a great drive, but a lonely drive, Fernando, for you. But let's talk about that start. Fantastic again, away from the line.
Yeah, it was good. Again, the start I get blocked a little bit by Sato, that tried to close the door a little bit, and I had to lift off a little bit. And probably for that I lost the second place, because I arrived quite close to Rubens, but not enough. And after that, it was quite calm, the race, not very much, nothing in the front, nothing on the back, and just to control the gaps. And as they said, a lot of traffic, a lot of people lapping, and it was a little bit difficult for that.
Tony, final thought from you about Jenson Button's performance here this afternoon.
A very solid performance, Jim. I think he did very well. The whole team were extremely professional. Second thing on Ferrari, once he seals the championship, I hope Rubens gets some crumbs from the table. And finally, can we make an appeal? Can we give Formula One back to the drivers, please? Thank you.
You want that overtaking, don't you?
We've got to change the regulations badly.
Okay. Next stop then on record-breaking World Tour is Spa. If he wins there, he's world champion again. Oh yeah, it is his favourite circuit. Cheerio.